chance to enjoy like a New Jersey experience.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I got your second one saying, this email, you must have given the wrong one, here's a new one, and there was no attachment to that.
Apparently,
Yeah.
apparently there's a lot of people who,
Just see all these gray hairs?
I call the meeting to order, and just before we start, I know that we're a pretty small group this evening, but I just like to have one moment of remembrance for 9/11. It's the 14th anniversary, and I think it's just appropriate that tomorrow we take a moment to make sure we reflect upon it. Thank you. I'll ask the clerk to please read the roll call.
This meeting is held pursuant to New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act. Adequate notice of this meeting was advertised in January 11, 2015 edition of the Trends and was provided to the Star Ledger, Daily Record, and North Jersey Herald News on January 11, 2015. Adequate notice of this meeting was also posted on the municipal bulletin board, filed with the acting borough clerk, and provided those persons or entities requesting notification.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Frida?
Here.
Councilman O'Doherty?
Here.
Councilman Barish? Absent. Councilman Cobell? Absent. Councilwoman Sventi?
Here.
And Councilman Giantonio.
Here.
Thank you. Has anyone heard from Steve? Because I understood that he's going to be gone next week, but I anticipate him being at.
We had a meeting with him this morning. I think he's leaving tomorrow, so.
yeah, I thought he was supposed to be.
Yeah, I assumed he was going to be here.
Okay. Just want to cover the same ground twice. We'll move forward now with the attorney report.
Mayor, my report was sent in. Of course, happy to discuss some items enclosed, and we should all be aware that obviously COA issues are vibrant and emerging issues for us. If anyone has any questions about those, they'd be appropriate for closed as well.
Great. Thank you, Mark. I'm going to go after council committee reports this night, if that's okay with the council. We'll start with recreation. Councilman Frieda.
Thank you. Not much to report tonight. They, as you know, they started the field. Everything has been taken up. Ground's been penetrated, I would say probably 12 inches and more. So they've gotten the rocks out, and they said that they found pipes and all different kinds of stuff in there. So they were able to get everything out of there to their best of their ability. They did put the sand and the dirt mixture together. The drainage is in. So next week they should be laying the sod. The irrigation went in yesterday, so that's ready to roll, and you know, so it's all on track. So it's good news. And we had a rec meeting last night. Wasn't much discussion about anything. There was some people there concerned about the conditions of the softball field. And I just think we dropped the ball on, we thought they were not using one of the fields, and so we were having one room but not the second one, so it was just a miscommunication. But we did tell those people to always keep us in the loop of what's wrong with the fields. If they feel something's not up to par, and we'll correct it immediately. And now soccer starting, fall baseball's going. Soccer this year, tomorrow or Saturday we're having a coaches clinic, so there's going to be a professional group in that's going to teach the coaches some rules and some skill drills and stuff like that, and then we're going to hand out the jerseys. So we figured if we hold up back on the jerseys and hand them out on Saturday, they'll show up for the training. So this year our jerseys are all the European teams, so it'll look cool. It'll be kind of like
Basketball,
yeah. So unlike NCAA, now we're going with the European teams. So it'll be a good soccer season for that. Football's in full swing. They've had a couple scrimmages. They've used the game field, I think, once so far, and it's in great shape. And you know, KRP, we've had a couple of issues with some residents over there because of the lights. As you know, it is temporary. I mean, those lights are coming out as soon as football season's over. The lights are off by 8:30 at night, most nights, the latest 8:30. They're not used at all on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So the residents just has to be patient. It's not the council trying to pass one by them. It's just a need. As we all know, we're lacking fields, so we're using what we have, and and the football coaches cannot get there till past 6 o'clock, and they need to practice till at least, 7:30, 8 o'clock. And with that being said, we now made it mandatory for all contact sport coaches to now take a concussion course online, and they have to be able, it was recommended by the CDC, so they will be sending us
Meeting out.
sorry. So that each coach has to take this course online and then present the certificate to Melanie in order to be down on the field. And so I think it's the next step, especially for concussions. It's a big.
Yeah, both of my boys took that testing, it's good.
Yeah.
Nice to have a baseline.
Yeah, and it was recommended by our trainer. As you know, we have a trainer now that's at all of our home football games, Pat Triano. And he's a licensed trainer in the state of New Jersey, so he's able to go out to the field and treat both teams. And our football league now has trainers on both sides as well. So more away, they have to supply a trainer to make sure the kids are safe. So, but all's well. The tree removal we'll talk about. I mean, the only thing, I guess I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about it now. Adam and I bumped into each other here yesterday, and as we were walking down the hallway, we were kind of ping-pong back and forth by the employees, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about them and their concerns, and without mentioning names and that kind of stuff. And I don't know your thoughts on that, Mayor, or if you want us just to meet with you individually, or.
Adam's given me an update already.
Okay.
And since it does involve individuals, maybe we can coordinate with the personnel chair. I think that you had some very positive conversations yesterday. I think
Yeah.
it is a good direction, but I think it involves all of us. But
Okay.
I think it's a little bit too specific, Jim, because my understanding is that there was some discussion about compensation
Correct.
and some things that involve individuals that we haven't raised this evening.
Right.
So, I give you credit for taking the initiative there. But let's see if we can do something between now and next week.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's unhappy. I think we, as a council, need to just understand what their issues are and then discuss what we're going to do about it and moving forward. So, besides that, I mean, I could do Adam's report. There's not
please,
much.
if you would.
We met with the police department yesterday. Everything's going great down there. He has written down nothing because there's no concerns right now, so that's a good thing. I did talk to Chris Mucci. He said that the George Galini, who's our insurance, I guess a liaison we'll say, has reached out to them. He said it's been great. He says he was talking to Linda, now Linda's gone, so he's been reaching out to Jen, and I explained to him why Jen probably hasn't gotten back to him yet because she's a little busy. So he's just waiting to reach out to Jen, and then he has a question for the council, which I told him to reach out to the mayor about. So he'll do that. But he said there was only two problems, and he said they're both easily corrected. So Kinnelon Fire Company, we're kind of asking about or Adam's asking about the progress of Tanker 33. Have we approved the Houston Galveston Co-op, or do we have
I
that?
have the same email from him, and we haven't even discussed it, so I mentioned to
Yeah.
Mark, we've got to get some background, just to make sure that they're
Yeah.
reputable, and then we can put forth a resolution next week, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I think it's the same as the one we approved for the turf, where it's a no
Keystone.
cost, you can get out of it and that kind of stuff, but, so we'll see, if you wanna talk about that. Good news, they only had 14 calls this month. Good news because there's only 14 calls, and the good news is because he's still looking for members, because they're desperately needing members, so. Triborough, nothing to report about. Technology, I guess we can go to Karen on this one. How's the phones working?
Terrible.
Okay, so the phones are working terrible in the whole of Borough Hall. I know I talked to Gail yesterday, and she said that she's having trouble hearing. Is that correct, or is it?
There's an echo in the phone,
Yeah, there's
so
an
there's
echo.
something that, and I think until we get the file servers in place, there's something that's just not where it needs to be with the phone.
We don't have the new server yet?
I don't know if it's been.
We have the new server, but I don't think everything's completely.
Our
hooked
new
up.
mail, it says our new mail
The
server is
software.
up. Some software snafus have cropped up and are being handled. Email addresses are in the process of being assigned. PD email server replacement is scheduled for next week.
Email's not as
user-friendly as it was.
No.
In my humble opinion.
I agree.
And
It
all
takes
my,
some
and all my contacts
tossing and
disappeared, so
pecking.
if I
Yeah.
didn't send somebody an email, it's because I couldn't find your I have no contacts anymore in my.
Because
lost
I
them.
use the Outlook. Do you use Outlook?
I went on with what they gave me to sign on, and,
Oh, the web-based
Whatever it
one?
is.
Through the web, it's Outlook. But
Yeah, it
it's
was
got a
Outlook
totally
Express
different
or
look.
something. It was,
Yeah.
whatever it is, I'm not gonna fool around with it, this is what.
because I left that to go to Outlook proper
I think
because I
Donna
like that better.
Donna had made recommendations for this phone system because Bloomingdale
No.
currently uses it, so I don't know if it's a hardware problem or software, but my understanding talking to Adam, it appears to be software at this point, so.
Yeah, so then maybe.
The email problem?
The phone, the quality of the phone, there's times when Karen's talking to residents, you can't hear it. You keep on saying what, so I think we just need to identify what the issue is. But, I don't think Bloomingdale has the same problem.
Should we put something on the website letting the town know we're having trouble?
I
good idea.
think we throw it to Adam and see ultimately what he's done to resolve it, and if in fact it is serious, we probably should communicate with the public.
Yeah, so they don't call and get annoyed because Karen's not hearing them, you know what I mean? Let them know it's,
I don't think it can hurt putting something on there, if you have a problem with the phones, we're working on it,
Right.
sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll tell just
I
Adam.
think
think about it,
everybody in
and
town
then,
is having problems. BOE was having problems, the Ward Library.
yeah, if it's resolved,
Across the
obviously
board.
we don't need it, but
What else, Jim?
And that's all, he just says, there's information posted for the Historical Commission Pathways Tour weekend, it's on Facebook and the website, and, you know, I wanna give Adam kudos, he really worked that website and, the phone system and everything else, he's one heck of a BA, I tell you. So, but that's the end of my report.
Thanks, Jim. Now moving on, to Public Works and Utilities. Dan.
Thank you, Manny. But I will say, this was given to me by a resident of Kinnelon, which you said I brought in, but it's not marijuana or anything, it's rubber, crumbled up rubber tires that's in Wildwood Crest. It's in all their playgrounds. But if you look at it, you can see the tire treads in this crumbled rubber. So just for your interest, not that it means anything about my report, but at any rate, the JIF, the Joint Insurance Fund, has asked if we can have a member from each of our companies, our fire companies, attend a seminar on September 30th. And I emailed over the information to Adam today. If you can pass it on to the fire department, it would help.
What's
With
the
the
hours?
joint
Is it
insurance
during
fund.
the day, or is it
Pardon me?
during the day?
I also sent you a copy.
Okay.
I believe so, yes. Okay? There's also some training, different training that the Mel gives every year. And if anybody or any employee in the borough, Karen, needs to know about it, you know about all the Mel offerings. There is a ladder safety course also given on the 30th in Wanacue, which might be necessary for some of our DPW management. That's the end of our report. Our insurance fund is doing well. Naturally, next year we're going to need a new commissioner for the, which I attend every meeting once a month. All right, that's on
During
the
the day,
second.
right?
Pardon me?
During the day.
It's on the second Wednesday of the month at noon,
That's
every
good.
month, so it was yesterday at noon. Okay, as far as DPW meeting, the mayor and I met with, so the council knows, with the superintendent this morning, and we did what we had to do with what we had to do with the superintendent. We did receive one grievance letter, which I'm responding to this month, from an employee. The fields are coming along, as Jim said. We expect to have that turf down on Thursday. They're going to install that, so that should make it green down there. But they did move the fences back, and it was a question today at the meeting, because one of the football people came up to somebody, to Todd, who was one of our employees, and asked him to move the poles back after they had done it already. Well, you should check with other people, the football people should check with other people than
We should
have
go
an
with
employee
Melanie,
do it.
right? We kinda talked about it at the meeting.
Yeah,
this
talk
morning.
to Melanie about it first and, coordinate it. So if the recreation can talk to Melanie about it before directing DPW workers to do certain items would be
That's
helpful.
not, that's not the Recreation Commission, that's a football coach. He
Yeah.
should have done that.
Right. No, of course not. The toilets are gonna be done shortly at Booton Avenue, all right? we're talking about the soffits, you know, the soffits over at the KRP facility. But John said, you know, we were talking about just putting back up the aluminum, but he said the wind is so windy over there because it's an open field, it keeps blowing them down. They've put them up before. So he was saying, why don't we install wood ones? So John is going to go out and get some carpentry bids on putting up wood soffits instead with some vents in them. Okay?
Is it wood, Dan, or there's really some material that holds up
AZAC.
pretty well, right? What did you call it?
Well, no,
AZAC is the-
AZAC, but AZAC would be the fascia boards, but underneath would be a
Oh, the
wood
soffit.
soffit.
Oh, it's wood underneath.
But
Okay.
on the trim, I told him we should use AZAC.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, it's
Good
a composite board.
Yeah.
Composite plastic.
So we get a
PVC?
contract, but our DPW maintainers, it's not in their scope of work. We shouldn't have them climbing ladders over there and doing this and that. It's not part of what they normally do. So I said, John, get us some estimates on that. So he said that he would. Okay?
Yeah, just the snack shack over in or the building over on KRP2, all the leaders and gutters are damaged. So if we're gonna get a proposal, maybe to do not only the soffits, but also the leaders and gutters.
Yeah, usually that's a different contractor, but, you know what I'm saying, but we can get that, or he can use it as a sub, the contractor that makes the bid on it. As far as the construction goes, over to DPW, we're moving along, as everybody can see. We have color up there, we have the stucco being put on, we have the steel panels being installed. And we're moving along. Next week, they intend to pour the floor. They're doing the underground at the beginning of this next week. And by the 15th, they intend, or the 16th, the 15th, they intend to pour the concrete floor. We sort of marking it out today. They installed the sewer line. We got a complaint from yelling and screaming at us about, we stopped the water for the animal shelter. We didn't stop the water. Unfortunately, the backhoe that was digging the trench for the sewer line ripped out the water line by mistake, of course, but that happens. And they repaired it, and then put the animal shelter back into working condition. We found out the Decker Terrace, we do have the monies for paving Decker Terrace. But we can't get an answer from Tilcon. We'd like to pave it this year. But Tilcon doesn't answer their phone, according to Don. I said, we'll be the squeaky wheel, you know. And at any rate, he said that he would keep trying. I would also like to see a meeting set up between our committee, P. Corial, and the KDAC representatives. We have to have some discussions about their facility. So I'm requesting that we have this before our next workshop. We probably won't be able to have it before next council meeting next week. I know that Councilman Cobell will be out next week, so unless Councilman Barish, myself.
I'll ask Karen to see what Pete's availability is.
Yes.
Okay, let's start there,
I appreciate it. Next, we had the opening of the bids, too, of our garbage contract, which is, and unfortunately, only one person bid the job. And I met with the owner, and John and I both met with him, John Roselli, even though it's Roselle from Garbage Disposal, of course. We don't know.
The same company?
Same company that we're currently using, who, we have very little complaints with this company. They really do a decent job. I mean, we've had a few, of course, with recycle, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
But, I mean, we're looking at a substantial increase over the next 3 years with our garbage removal.
Why?
Okay, number one is recycle. And he's probably trying to make up for some of the monies on the bids that he's introduced to us. You know, but he's paying, he used to get $40 a ton when he dropped off the recycle to Mount Olive, which is a county facility where they dump all the stuff onto a conveyor belt and it takes it. Now he has to pay, over the last year, he's had to pay $25 a ton to dump it. We pay $90 a ton as it is. We pay the highest in the state, probably, for Morris County to dump all our garbage, to dump the refuse.
We looked
So
into
if we
getting
go-
out of that, right? A couple
Pardon
of
me?
years ago, we looked into getting out of that, but the county won't let us. They force us to use their
That's correct.
facility.
They
We can
force
get
us
it
to use
cheaper.
Morris County. We can't go over to Passaic.
You looked
with-
into that, right?
The New York
Yeah.
City garbage
We talked
trucks
about
go
this-
dump
We
it
did talk about this a few
in
years ago.
Passaic County, but we're not allowed to utilize it.
What happened to the Mount Olive recycling place?
This was supposed to save everybody a lot of money, so I don't know why they're charging everybody. So maybe we could have the freeholders check into why are we getting this charge all of a sudden? That's increased our, value of what we're doing.
Right.
But we're looking at $69,000 or more a year just to recycle in the bids, and we're looking at $96,000 more a year, and I don't know why that is for the refuse collection.
We'll see.
Because that should be down with
Well, fuel,
recycling.
fuel, and also fuel is.
Fuel, right, but we only had the one bid, unfortunately.
So it's up 170?
It's up approximately 170,000, and if you
That's
go
better
up,
than 10%.
right. It's a big increase. Here, you can review the numbers on this, Steve.
I mean,
Um,
what choices do we have if we only got one bid? You do it again, or change some specs?
I don't know if we really can do it.
I don't know if you can, I mean, I
Okay,
haven't
I don't
checked,
know.
but also your time frame.
The timing, the cost, there's a cost to do, I'm just,
Yeah, there's issues, I
Wanna
don't think
discuss
we
it,
have the
that's all.
ability to float that much time into this,
Okay.
but, if that's somebody's choice, we can certainly talk about it.
I'm just wondering what I'm just trying to get a handle on what our alternatives might be,
We
because
may
that's a
want to
big increase.
discuss bidding strategy and close.
Okay.
But there are various options we probably can talk about.
Okay, so I just want to tell you where that came in. That just came in, it was last week, I think we had the bid opening process.
It was last week.
And it was very disappointing, of course. But the numbers are what they are.
If you told me that it increased 70,000 for the recycling, I'm okay with that, but then you have
But then
garbage
why-
going up 96, which we're using, probably giving them less garbage.
Correct.
You know what I mean? You would think that number would
In the
stay.
first year, it increased, I don't know, 101,000, I don't know why.
Well, I do know his last garbage bid, he came in 60,000 less than the last time, remember?
All right, our last contract went down
Yeah. it
relative
went
to the
down
prior one, so
60,000.
I guess
And this is not fuel related, because I think one pickup a week versus two is exactly the same dollar amount, so
Right.
it's not fuel related,
Right.
it's garbage related.
it's a cost to get rid of it, I
And
guess.
Pennsylvania doesn't want New Jersey garbage, there's a legislator who wants to
I mean, we do
tell us
have the
to burn
fixed,
garbage.
we do have the fixed numbers on it, but the committee did recommend that we stay with a 3-year, but the committee was unaware of the dollar figures either. So if you want to just do a 1-year contract and put it out again to another bid.
Why don't we talk, Mark says he has some strategies that are more
Well, we
appropriate
can talk
for
about it.
close, maybe we can do
We'll
that.
Talk about it. Yeah, there's a lot to discuss.
Right.
It's value.
Okay. Basically, the DPW workers were getting set, and hopefully we're gonna be occupying that building with the constructions going on. And they say they're gonna be able to be, and John is hoping that we have it open by mid-October, late October. We'll have the whole facility open for all the borough residents, which is very important. We're not gonna give out a date as of yet, but we're very optimistic it's gonna be sooner than later. And we discussed that this morning.
They're on schedule, right?
They're on schedule,
They're
so
hitting
we're
every
looking at,
time.
we're looking at the mid-October to open a complete facility again for the residents, so they can do their leaves and everything else. As you can see, the new building is progressing nicely, and we should be able to move the fence back and get the facility itself open. As far as utilities, we're monitoring the water that's being utilized by the Board of Education, because we're trying to separate their sewer out of our bills, as we've discussed before. We're trying to get the Board of Education to pay for their, because currently they're using the water in the sewer, but yet, as we all know, there's no compensation for that. Also, we have the Stony Brook Power Plant, the sewer plant that we utilize over on Hooten Avenue, that we took them out of the sewer a couple of years ago, but it's costing, John says it's costing us about $100,000 a year for that plant, and there has to be much more communication between the borough and the school to let them know what they can and can't do. We've had issues with teachers pouring paint products down, we've had to pump everything out, we can't let that flow into the effluent system down onto Mile Lake and so we have to notify if there's a new principal there or whatever, or the superintendent has to notify them. It's absolutely forbidden to throw, just like you would anything, down their toilets or their sewer system, because it goes into our plant, which then we have to get rid of it and dispose of it. And it costs us a lot of money to operate that plant. But right now, the borough is operating the plant, we're spending the monies on it between, that's the block is our subcontractor. And other than that, Tilcon, we're waiting for the prices on Tilcon, as I said, right? That's about it. That's,
I'm gonna ask you one question.
wait, there's one other thing about K-Fest with our, you know, we all received an email. K-Fest was canceled because we were gonna do the fireworks at night. Our fire inspector will not approve the site for K-Fest. I know we approved it for all those years. We have an empty DPW building, and our fire inspector of Westside refused to give us sign off on a fire inspection for this site. We have metal containers and nothing that's combustible. The fire department's willing to wet down the brush, but yet we didn't have it. So we had to cancel on account of the fire inspector, and I think that's a shame.
Well, my understanding is that he actually did a site review with both John Whitehead and and Gail Brissett, chief of the fire company, and it was, you know, discussed because the site is under construction, but I agree with you, it's a shame it's not moving forward. It would have been nice to have an event this year, even on a scaled back level. We'll make sure it happens next year, so we've got to make a commitment. Can I ask me one question, one word question?
Uh-oh.
Here it comes.
Do I have to answer?
You do. Salt.
Salt! I reported on that last month.
Well,
You said we didn't have any, we need
We
some.
don't have it. No, we have enough for about 4 incidents, but that's it. It's about a quarter of the
How many
shed. We have
incidents
about
do you have?
400 ton, if I remember from last
well,
month.
John is usually pretty good about ordering in the summer when it's lighter
No doubt.
weight, so.
But we've been storing equipment in there for the construction. So as soon as we get that equipment out of there, in the middle of October, then we intend to bring the salt in.
And I still intend to call you up for weather reports
No.
after December.
I'm
31st.
unavailable. I have radar now. I have radar now on my phone. I can just push an app and it shows me where the storms are. It says, comes right over smoke rise
There you
again.
go.
No, they use more salt in the borough, forget it.
They do. Thanks, Dan.
Oh,
Moving
yeah.
now on to finance, Steve.
Okay, as you know, we had a resignation a while ago. The only other than our acting CFO, the full-time person resigned. We did have a very encouraging interview this morning with the Finance Committee and our acting CFO. And because we would talk about a potential employee, that's something that has to be done in closed, or
Yeah, we would, again, any employee discussion would probably.
potential, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so then
That's- I
maybe
think that's supposed
we
to
can go
go.
into the specifics on that in closed, whatever. And just that I think we have to act on that. The reason I'm pushing that is because having one person in that office now, you know, she gets the day-to-day done, but things are gonna start falling behind, reconciliations, reports, we can't get a lot of information with one person in there. You know, the bills are getting paid and taxes are posted and whatnot, but we do need a second person in there. And we also had a resignation, and we saw a couple of good resumes from licensed tax collectors. So I think we should schedule those interviews. I assume it'd be the Finance Committee,
Finance, yeah.
we'll start with them. I'm away next week, but if you want to interview with Adam and our acting CFO,
Sure.
because there's a complete integration there.
Right.
It looked pretty promising. One of them, the one resume that I had more time to study, they use Edmunds, and this person, so I would like Jennifer to see what the integration is. There's real
Good.
Edmunds
Did you-
background there.
Did you look through resumes? Have you?
Two.
Okay.
I saw two tax collectors. The
Right.
one I just perused, the last one that came in, but the first one I got a chance to, and I had that forwarded to Jennifer because she did talk about her admin skills and integrating with the CFO. So I thought, you know, our CFO should opine on that.
And I'll sit on the interviews as ex officio.
I was gonna ask you.
So.
Yeah, if it's next week, if it's the week after, we can't somebody in it.
Steve, during my conversation with Lisa, she said that she would consider helping us during this transition at night. They're coming
Okay.
in, because she said
Yeah.
We have a tax sale coming up.
Right, she said she would do that, we just have to come to a fee, she's
Right,
going to be
correct,
compensated, and we'll see how quickly we can get somebody
And
else.
with
in
that
there.
being said, she has not spoken to Vernon about that yet,
Mhm.
so it's, she has to get their approval, because the tax sale has to be done during the day.
Right,
During
okay.
the week, so she's gonna get back to me, but, you know, obviously she's gonna be looking for a number. I know all of us
Yeah.
have no idea what number, because we've never needed it. Well, we did Irene there for a while, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, we used Irene
So we can
Quasnick
come up
for a
with
while.
some kind of number.
Well, that was for an annual, that was when we didn't have a
Right.
thing, and
Hers
she
is a
signed
little
off
bit
all
more
the,
intense.
yeah, so the tax sale, we'll have to see, we'll get an idea of how much time it takes. With regard to hiring someone to replace our AP and payroll person, I think we may have to look at an amendment to our salary ordinance. Were you gonna talk about that in personnel, or?
Yeah.
or you mentioned-
In general, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we should have to add, because we have an acting clerk and an acting CFO, I think we have to put those specific titles in our salary ordinance. Would you think so, Mark? As opposed to CFO and clerk?
Yeah, I mean, we might as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, again, you know, talk to Lou if that's required, I'm not sure that's required. But it
Okay.
does seem, certainly at least the acting clerk position has been one
Right.
that
And the
has been
acting
there for a while, and
and
the acting CFO
CFO
has
is
been,
good.
in
Our
fact, been
intention
there for a
is,
while.
our plan is it's gonna be there. The only other thing I have is we got a proposal from the group of CMFOs. I don't wanna say, you know, you get in trouble throwing letters around there, MFOs. The finance committee met with them twice, and our acting CFO met with them, and everybody's pretty comfortable that they have the depth of resources to come in and do two things: bring us, catch us up on the work that has to be done. They not only have the CFOs, but they have some lower-priced employees who are experienced municipal business office people that can come in and actually physically help us catch up on some of the work. And then some of the higher-end people that Jason that we met, and Joe, the other fellow, who are CFOs of many, many years' experience, to come in and look at some of the projects that right now our CFO doesn't have the experience, like remapping Edmonds. That was never, it was started by our former CFO. I'm sure she made some progress on it, but it's not 100% there yet, as our auditor will tell you. And I think those kinds of projects they can help us with. And then the other thing, once we get caught up and they work on the Edmonds system, I would also ask them to prepare, and Jennifer agreed, you know, a monthly closing schedule, so to speak, on everything that has to be done during the month. And then as Jennifer becomes more experienced, she'll be able to do more of those things on her own and call for their help less and less, but in the beginning a little more. And then, you know, with a good assistant that we hope to get her, and these folks helping her.
Do you have a proposal?
I have a copy of the proposal. The finance committee has it. Maybe I'll forward it to everybody tonight when I get to my email. And assuming I can figure out the new email, find my contacts.
Remember
and
to
whatnot.
attach the document.
So you have no objection to us taking action next week?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. The only thing is, we're gonna have to talk about dollars, because
Okay, for next week.
I think it's gonna be more in the beginning, helping us catch up and correcting some of our systemic data processing functions, and then less going forward, you know, on
Yeah, Jen's got
an
a
as-
nice idea of what she's gonna need
Yeah.
help with and
Right.
not, so.
Jennifer's very realistic on what her strengths are and where she needs some help. I reviewed the overtime, the retro calculations that, I think Karen was given some bad numbers originally. And mechanically, what she did was right the first time, but then it turns out she was given some bad numbers to work with. So this time, I think Karen pulled the numbers and Jennifer pulled the numbers from the payroll records. And I also, again, went over her calculations and the way she did it, and, you know, it looks according to the contract. As far as I recalculated, I think there's 4 folks who have back pay, and we can go over the individuals enclosed.
We have priced them. My question for you is, did we already adjust once for these employees 3 times?
Right.
So the number that's being presented here is the gross adjustment, right? As opposed to
Well, the
net?
gross less what was paid.
Okay. I haven't seen the spreadsheets.
Yeah, no,
So
we-
we still owe them something? Just-
Yes.
It's a different number?
Yes, we've been chipping away at it, because each time we think they have the number, they pay them a little more, and
Apparently it's a
eventually,
moving target.
yeah, so I think we have the real target now.
So
And
the retro,
So,
the retro is 15,094.72.
not to pay them. This is what owed now.
So we owe a
That
total.
was
Okay.
paid
Okay, so
Okay.
we owe a total of 1,144.52, so,
for one person.
for one person.
okay, what's the
Yeah.
total for all?
Did you put them all together? or-
I'm sorry, I didn't, Steve.
Okay.
Let's put together a gross number, put on for next week, okay, by resolution, okay?
It's less than $5,000
Okay, good.
in total. I believe that's all from the finance.
When you get back, you and I met with the auditor to talk about internal audit work. And I know that Lou wanted to have a conversation about that, so when you get back, I want to see where we're at with that, okay?
Well, I think, yeah, I think prior to that, we're gonna have to get these folks established, because right now, we know we're behind, because we haven't had a CFO, and now we have a second person, so.
Right, but they could still come in and do testing on, I'm talking about Lou doing testing, on disbursements and,
Well, he can certainly test the work that they've done, but as far as looking at reconciliations, we know they're a month or so behind, because there's nobody else there to.
but let's talk about them when you get back. Okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Moving on to coordinating open space. Carol.
Thank you, Mayor. Board of Adjustment, there was, let's see, there was an interesting application that would give good reasoning for moving forward with the CCO ordinance. I'm going to share that information with the committee members. It was in regards to a two-family dwelling. Board of Health, there was no meeting in September. Library Board of Trustees, their technologist, Gregory Gallant, is coordinating with Kinnelon Police Department on creating a seminar and possibly several seminars as regards internet scams and phone scams for targeting seniors, and that will probably take place after Halloween. Their Makerspace program is expanding to include a silhouette cameo cutter. IndieFlex Streamio, which is a streaming independent video service, is now available through the library's website. Patrons only need their library card to get that started for them. The library has hired Kathy Presti to join their team in children's as their newest library assistant. Kim Christian is still working out very well with expanding and providing several terrific programs that are coming up. The Godfather's Daughter, Mike Ransom book signing, wills and estate planning, a babysitting certification program, and the all-important pet CPR. Online registration through the library's event calendar is now available on their website. And the library is having great success with their squareup.com and accepting credit cards and debit cards. The reception's been very positive, and patrons pay for fines, lost item fees, and adult and teen program registration fees. Historical, Phase 2 of the Cole restoration. A change order for the contract with the architect should be put on the agenda for next week. I think I emailed that to you, Karen. This is for additional work due to the dividing of the plan, the original plan for Phase 2, where we broke it into two sections. Instead of doing the roof, gutters, and siding, now it's going to be Phase 2, Part A, the roof and gutters, Phase 2, Part B, the siding, and the all-important privy that's off on the side of the property. Also, there's an ordinance on our agenda for next week for the boiler replacement. Hopefully, this won't affect their upcoming October events that they have for the Pathways Tour, which is on the 10th and 11th, and the 50th high school reunion for the class of 1965 on October 17th. From last month, Dan, I had a couple of things that I brought up that I wanted to follow up with both you and John W. The status of hiring an exterminator or other such service to clean up the attic from the raccoons that had moved in there. John didn't want his workers doing it because he had cited 2 recent illnesses in Yosemite cabins from mice feces. The other one was what was the status of the lawn care at Lacole? I think you had mentioned that you would talk to Todd about that.
No, I talked to John about it.
Or John, yeah.
And he said that he was gonna make sure it was taken care of.
Okay, all right. I haven't seen anything yet. I just had the meeting and they hadn't seen any.
Well, was the lawn cut?
It was cut, but it also needs some TLC. It needs fertilization, it needs,
Oh, I don't know if they thought,
I
after the
didn't
meeting,
know.
I
I
thought
said,
"Oh,
they
cut
were
the
under the
lawn."
impression
Okay.
to cut
No,
the
the-
wall out.
I
I
mean,
didn't-
because I had
I'm just saying
mentioned
from the
that,
meeting this morning.
committee would like to know who's in charge
We
of
don't
taking
fertilize, you
Lacole's
have to get a
lawn.
company.
Pardon me?
We don't fertilize, you have to get a company.
Increasingly infested with weeds and crabgrass, even worse since the renovation of the porch. And Carol Kaiser said there's at least $700 in their budget for lawn care. So,
So I would tell her to reach out to Eco or like an
Okay.
Eco Lawn or a
Eco
Green.
Lawn or Green.
Because we don't have a
Works.
license to put pesticides in.
okay. Environmental Commission, we're looking forward to the introduction of the tree ordinance again this month. At the Open Space Advisory Committee, not much there. They're still waiting for info regarding the award of the federal trail grant. We have a resignation from high school senior Michael Papopoulos. He's leaving for college the end of this month. He's attending the University of Chicago. And anything else I have there is for closed, but Board of Ed. I received an email from Diane DiGiuseppe about trying to set up another joint coordinating committee meeting. And I've been in touch with Jim and Dan, and with the beginning of school and trying to find a date that works for, and also with Mark, I'm sorry. She had thrown out some dates, and it's looking more and more like 10-1 and 10-5, but I'm also waiting to hear what time of day.
Then we didn't realize
And
it was
where?
morning or night yet.
I was assuming evening.
I was assuming evening as well, but I don't like to use the word assume, so I'll presume that it's evening. Other than that, we're still pretty much in a holding pattern as far as the artificial turf field. I've continuously or habitually reached out to Paul Niehoff from Master Engineering. He's still trying to talk to DEP and not have to do the perk tests on the high school football field.
Well, they're gonna determine that, right? DEP is gonna determine based upon what
Exactly.
those.
But what Paul said is, is I will continue to talk to the New Jersey DEP out of the need for the test, as it will require disturbance of an active field. However, I likely will not be successful. By resubmitting, we will receive a correspondence letter from New Jersey DEP informing us what is needed for the perk test and other requirements. And he'll keep us posted, so we're kind of in a holding pattern on waiting for DEP to make their determination. Other than that, that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Carol.
Just before,
I'm sorry.
on the, on putting a seminar or presentation together on all this information,
I have
pro,
not-
con, otherwise
I have
that's.
not heard back from anybody.
Who-
I reached out to, let me go back in my memory here, Nike,
One of the companies that installs them, right?
yes, and I have not heard back from them and I have not reached out to Perry as yet because I know he would be willing to do anything whenever. I also reached out to a couple of doctors in town, and I need to look up the doctor that you had mentioned who was, because I'm trying to get
The
people who are
oncologist.
both pro and for both sides.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if we'll need a police officer there or
Yeah,
not.
sure, we're all professionals, come on.
But, and truthfully, with the 7 committees, I haven't had a chance to really follow up on it since our last meeting. But I will continue to send out the emails to who I can and see if I can get a call back. If you have numbers for anybody at Nike Grind or at the Cork infill locations, that might be, or contact names, that would be more helpful rather than cold calling. But
I think, Jim, you have all the contacts, huh?
Yeah.
You know Mr. Nike?
Dated his daughter in high school.
Don't get more.
All right.
Should've stuck with that.
okay, and that's the end of my report, Mayor.
Cliff, just before we start.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I understand that you invited Brian Giblin to the meeting tonight.
Yes.
You did not reach out to me, you did not reach out to the clerk, you spoke to council about it. in order to be coordinated. Their public is here at these meetings. If Brian were to show up here at 7 o'clock this evening, I would have him wait until such time as we can complete our business. So
Right.
I expect a phone call when in fact we're trying to coordinate with this, especially outside professionals. I expect courtesy, so just moving forward, pick up the phone, give me a call, and make sure I'm aware, okay?
Okay.
Personnel and ordinance. Cliff.
Okay. Speaking of Brian, the Personnel Committee has finalized the negotiations with the personnel union representatives, and Brian's going to talk about that tonight. So I won't get into that anymore. Also on personnel, Mayor, I know you had said you don't want to talk about people or salaries, and I'm not.
It's not that I don't want to unless we raise them.
We should not.
We should
Understood.
not, so.
But no, my point is this. As we all know, there used to be a member of Karen's staff, part-timer in the office, Nisa, who left several months ago. And just, in talking to people who work here in the borough, I was thinking it might be a good idea to replace her with perhaps another part-timer to help out in the whole municipal building, starting with Karen, but I think maybe she can help everybody, he or she. And I was wondering if anybody had any thoughts on that.
My understanding was that we were looking potentially to the person that we're going to put into the finance department to supplement and augment. And I know this requires further conversation. I know there's been a transition, but in talking with Karen about the resource requirements, I think that's maybe a point we touched upon without a decision being made. So I think we can talk about that this evening. I don't have a problem if in fact council thinks it's advisable to put a part-time person in the clerk's office. We should move forward on it. I mean, it was, I think, someone that we initially hired to clean up some of the outstanding COs and applications. I mean, we talked about the huge backload related to that, and that was supposed to be one of the main charges for that position. But our deputy clerk or acting clerk is here, so Karen, is it needed, not needed, or?
A part-time person or a full-time person in the front office is desperately needed. Can help with doing the clerical stuff that I need done, the Oprahs, because we have to go down in the other room and research the tons of boxes that are down there and pull out construction permits and makes copies, just to make sure that we have our Oprah request on time. And there's other stuff, the filing and helping getting ready for the meetings and making your copies and, just helping me out getting things done that need to be done because things are backing up very much. I just try to keep on track and doing the most important things that need to be done in the office first. My file is now 3 deep. I haven't been able to file it. But yes, somebody is desperate, and to help with the phones desperately because the phones are not working. They're all coming to my office again. And I had Adam sitting there, and he actually asked me not to answer it because he wanted to talk to me. And he asked me to put it on do not disturb, and that doesn't work on the phones either. So I do need somebody to answer the phones, help the people at the windows. I mean, it's more of a clerical thing than anything really
I think we've done
intense.
a very good job of leveraging resources, and attrition really has, in large part, I think, helped us become a little bit more efficient. But I think we've hit that critical mass point now where it's compromising our interface with the public, and I have a concern about that. It's once again, if we're going to have a full-time person at clerical level, and we need it, we just have to ultimately, I think, find the dollars for it. So I don't know if you had a chance to talk about it or think about it, but once again,
Well, we had budgeted for Anissa for the year,
part-time.
Yes,
part-time.
part-time.
So I think we can
You
at
can
least have a
start
part-time
somebody with
person.
that part-time.
And as far as using the person from the business office, I think we need a full-time person there, given that we've kind of changed our plan recently and using an acting CFO and a mentor, as opposed to hiring a CFO. I don't think that person is gonna have time to do justice to Karen's department. I think it's gonna be a full-time job in there for the foreseeable future.
well, to the credit of the staff, I know that they really have, I think, supported the fact that we've been in transition now for a number of years, and I think people do jobs that are not necessarily related to their specific function, I think, which is a credit to the staff, but with all the changes here, we need some continuity, and so I think it's a good idea to, let's start with a part-time person, let's advertise for it, and see what we can do to replace that position.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, my thinking was we start with part-time, and if, you know, after several months, if the staff thinks we could use a full-timer, we'll deal with it at that point. Ordinances. First, the CCO. I know this had been attempted several years ago before I was on the council. Carol was kind enough to send me a couple of articles about some of the discussions that were had regarding the prior CCO, and there was some concern in town about us enacting a CCO. It seemed to me, and I again rely on you folks who were here, it seemed to me though that one of the biggest concerns was the existence of outstanding building permits.
Mhm.
But I seem to recall many months ago that we set up a system that we were trying to at least address those backlogged building permits. You know, letting people know you've got this outstanding permit, has it been okayed? Is that still going on, Karen?
No, that was Anissa's.
No, Lisa never even did it. All she did was take the files that were moved down to the storage room area. They were brought back up here and she put them in order. That's as far as she
Oh,
got.
jeez. Okay. Okay, so my thought process was that if we can explain to the public that we're working through the backlog of building permits, that there will be much less concern that when you go to sell your house, you're gonna find out there's 5 outstanding building permits. But maybe if we haven't started that process, maybe we need to put this off for a little bit till we can start that process.
And based on what we heard at the meeting, I guess it was the last or the prior
Yeah, I think
workshop.
last month, yeah.
I think maybe we should get a handle from the building department down in Bloomingdale on just how many there are and what their time frame is
Right.
to catch up on all these. And because if they say it's a 3-year project versus a 3-month project, that could affect when we would push, if we do in fact want to go forward with a CCO, that may have an impact on it, their capacity. Because from what we heard, just, you know, from people who had problems there, the folks down in Bloomingdale were saying it's gonna take, you know, a lot of time
Right.
to do that.
Right.
And I think we should find out from that folk, what their feeling is on timing. Because I don't think we wanna have somebody lose the sale of their home because they're gonna take 6 months to research an old building permit.
Right,
That'd be a problem.
Or they gotta
So-
tear down the deck or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I think maybe we should get an assessment from the building department on how they think they could handle it, and whether, as I said, it's a 3-year project or a 3-month project
Right.
to get that thing up and going, and what resources they may or may not need. Now, like Anissa was working on it, she's gone.
Right.
So I think we should assess that portion of it before we push on a
We can
CCO.
agree.
I would suggest that we could bring Dan Hagberg back, and he's actually been at 2 prior meetings, but let's bring back to next month's work session.
And he recommended, if I recall, that he would need 1 or 2 part-time employees just to resolve the situation with the backlogs.
That's right. He was more
But
focused on.
I don't know why the building department let them lax, why they didn't have them, why people didn't sign off on it. I know there's a time limit on when you can get your permits.
Well, I think that we looked at that position, Anissa's position, as doing exactly that, but I think there are other things that really came to light as far as responsibilities. OPA requests right now are really, I think, at a level that we haven't seen in many years. In fact, the New Jersey legislature is actually considering changing the Open Public Records Act to modify what in fact is eligible for request, because it is becoming a little onerous. But I think we would start with bringing Dan Hagberg in.
Should I contact him or Karen?
Karen can already do the
Okay.
outreach. Okay.
All right, yeah, I guess we'll ask him to come prepared with numbers and estimates and things like that. Okay, great. All right, so we'll shelve the CCO for now. The other one is, what is this? It's slipping my mind. What? I
You
haven't
didn't
thought
get
about
the
it.
attachment.
I didn't get the attachment, you're right. I know you don't want to hear this, but I'm used to, at my job, you open the document and you email it from there. It's the opposite with our system. You open the email and you have to attach the document, so I always forget it. So I
That's the other
apologize.
good thing about Outlook. When you send an email and you haven't put the attachment in, it says, do you want to send this without the attachment?
See, that's what I need.
You'll say yes.
Yeah, I want the attachment. So anyway, I know everybody got an old version, but that was actually the version that we talked about last month, and there were really only two changes that I made from the discussion last month. The prior one is in everybody's book, tab 4.
How about the one, I think I got, the most recent one I got by email would be newer than.
I thought it was, Carol said it wasn't.
I've got them both here. I
There were
printed
two
them out
attached
and
to
I
your
put them
email.
side by side. One portion is exactly the same.
Well, most of it is exactly the same.
Yeah.
I made two very minor changes. And whatever version you have, it doesn't matter because you can look at it. The first one is 186-9A.
Capital A, then little a.
Correct. This is one we had a good amount of discussion on. Filing of the application. An application for a tree removal or tree encroachment permit shall be filed in duplicate in the construction office, and the concern was raised. The construction office is now in Bloomingdale. So rather than doing that, let them file it here in town, and Mark had suggested we simply put or other designated recipient, so that's what I've added into the current version now. So it would read duplicate in the construction office or other designated recipient. And I think, Mayor, we talked about this, that on the form itself, we'll say where it can be filed.
Right.
So once we figure out what our form's gonna be, we can put that person on there. That will be the designated recipient. The other one is also 186-9, paragraph D, you gotta go 2 pages. Jim had expressed concern about having to get a placard every single time, so in that D, I took out or placard application, so the filing of a tree removal or tree encroachment permit application shall be deemed to constitute consent of the borough officials.
So you took out placard,
Right.
okay.
Now, my question is, in the next paragraph, it says no permit or placard. Did we want to take that out too? Because that's the notifying neighbors. think
I
so.
thought it was the notifying neighbors that was,
I
put
I
the
remember
hitch in the
talking
wall.
about both of them, but I didn't want to take it out without confirming. I think that was another concern that you had had.
Yeah.
No, I-
If you had a placard, do you have to notify your adjacent neighbors?
If I may, I thought it was the other way. I thought in D, which is the consent of the borough officials to enter your property, should be whether it's an encroachment, removal, or a placard. In other words, we should have, our borough officials should have the broad rights to enter upon property when there's, so that wasn't the way my recollection was.
Okay.
I did think what Jim was talking about in E is if you're getting a simple placard, you probably shouldn't have to notify
Right.
the whole
The
neighborhood.
placard is like one tree.
A placard is like one tree or two.
Yeah, that makes more
Yeah.
sense.
So that was what I thought the words "or placard" should be pulled out.
Okay, so we'll leave it in D and take it out in E. All right?
But it also says, you know, I have some other highlighted areas and we'll talk
Well, those are
about
the
it.
only changes I've made, so,
Now's the time to talk about it.
yeah.
But
Go.
I don't want you to think I'm against this tree. I mean, Carol, I mean, you could honestly know.
I've been working on it for 4
No,
years.
and you, but I had some very, you know, I've read this a bunch of times, we talked about it at committee and, you know, so I don't want you to think I'm picking on this. I just, there were some things as I keep reading it, more and more questions come to my mind, like, I'll start on page 1,
No,
as I always do. Clear cutting, you know, removal of all trees in a stand of timber in a certain area.
It's a definition, what's your question?
Well, it's a definition is, one of the things that you can't do in Kinnelon is clear cutting of any property in the borough is prohibited. So I just feel that that needs to be
It's
more
not clear.
defined. I mean,
Beefed up.
What does it mean?
yeah, like what does it mean?
Cutting?
Like, does it mean clear cutting is me cutting down 5 trees in a 10-foot square area? Or,
Right.
you know, we're trying to avoid what happened in Smoke Rise with the clear cutting of to me, that's clear cutting. This does, a stand of timber in a certain area doesn't mean anything to me. And nor, maybe it does to our forester, I don't know, but, I think that's the main thing we're trying to avoid here, and if
Right.
it's not clearly defined.
I got this
ourselves in
from
trouble.
another town's ordinance, and my understanding, and maybe I'm misinterpreting it, is a certain area would essentially mean a piece of property. So it's an entire property, an entire lot. But maybe we need to.
So now if
That
I
leaves a
take
little
my
bit to
property, knock my
personal-
house down, cut down every tree but 4, can I say, I didn't clear cut, I still have, I left 4, you know?
Well, yeah, I
Still
think
need
somebody
a
on the
permit.
environmental commission has.
But you need a
You still
permit,
need
which
a
you're not gonna
permit
get.
to do that, you're
Right,
not gonna get
okay.
the permit because,
Right.
you
It's
know,
valid.
this really emanated, I'm sorry, Cole. This really emanated from somebody denuding property
Right.
in
Mhm.
Smoke Rise so they could get a view of the city a couple of years
Right.
ago.
I added it in just to make it crystal clear, under no circumstances, don't even bother asking for a permit to take down every tree on your property. So, yeah, if you wanna file a permit for 99 out of 100 trees, knock yourself out, it'll probably
Okay.
be denied. But I wanted to make it clear that there will be, pardon the pun,
Jim, to
no
your,
clear cutting.
to your concern, would you like to see under clear cutting, just as a definition, removal of substantially all the trees in an area? So then your example.
Well, you know what, it
of
makes more
4
sense with what the mayor said about, you know, you gotta
You're not
get a
gonna
permit
get,
anyway.
correct,
so-
you're not gonna get the permit, but I thought you just didn't like that
Yeah.
definition.
No, I was just trying to make it sure it was understood, because that's the main thing we were trying to
No,
avoid.
it's
here.
interesting.
Absolutely.
This is what happened in Kinnelon.
Right.
The general definition is, hold on a moment, removal of all trees in a stand of timber. That's the basic definition.
Yeah.
Merriam-Webster's definition is cut down and remove every tree from parenthetical an area, as opposed to a piece of property. Because you may not cut down every tree on the property, but like somebody might do is cut this, you know, a 50 by 200 foot swath.
So they
can
cut
have
their
a view.
backyard out.
They cut out, right.
Right.
But they're not clear cutting the property, they're clear cutting an
But
area.
either way, if they cut down more than X amount of trees, it's,
They're certainly at
They need
least
a permit.
violating the permit.
Right.
so,
Hopefully
I'm
they
okay
will
with
the permit.
Okay.
We'll move forward.
Thank
32, definition of a tree.
What do you got against trees?
Well, I don't actually, I like trees, and you saw my property, you understand, I have a lot of trees.
Okay.
It says that a tree is defined as something 4.5, or is it 4 inches or greater.
32?
I'm 32.
Right.
So
And you
diameter
wanted to-
4, I mean, a 4-inch diameter is a 2x4, isn't it? About this,
Right.
4-inch diameter would be 4 inches going across.
so that's defined as a tree, and you can't cut it down in your yard without a permit or a placard?
You gotta look at the height too.
No, it's met, but that, no, it's not a height.
4 inches or greater measured as a point
4.5
4.5
feet.
Above the
Above
ground.
grade level.
Right, that's what
So
you're
you gotta go,
So-
you gotta go up
Right here,
and
4
then
inches.
look at this size, right?
Right, yeah. It's usually you measure it more or less eye level, is what I think.
Tree market.
Yes.
How do you measure your trees?
So it would be approximately, right, Pat?
And I need a placard to cut that tree down in my yard,
Even if it's dead.
even if it's dead.
What's your thought?
If it's that height,
I thought it
above
was
a
12
certain
inches
height,
when we first talked
that
about it.
diameter above a certain height.
Wasn't it 12 inches when we first talked about it?
So
It was bigger,
I
because we all went, wow, oh yeah, it's 12 inches, yeah, that
I
makes
remember
sense.
it's
Suggest-
remember
You wanna
it's
change
6.
the diameter?
Yeah, I thought we
You
did
think that's
originally,
too
that's why I remember saying, Bob Dyer said, oh, it's 12 inches, that's a tree, and we're all like, oh yeah, that's a
Do
tree.
you like 6 inches, 4.5 feet above the ground? Is that what you're suggesting, James?
Well, he hasn't measured any trees, so he really
I
has nowhere to
haven't.
talk from.
I could have sworn when we first did it, it was 12 inches, and that was a tree, and we said, oh yeah, that's a
Well, what is the
Right.
current,
I think
But-
12 inches was
Yeah.
circumference,
What was
what would a 4x4 tree, I'm not good at math.
4x4?
Pi r squared,
trees?
isn't
What's
it?
the
what is the
circumference?
current?
One person here.
What about your
Well, this,
geometry?
no, this is not circumference, this is diameter.
Diameter.
That's what I mean, this is diameter, but I
The
think.
12 inches. he
12
would-
inches
12 inches
would
would be
the
about a
same.
4-inch
Oh,
tree.
okay.
Yeah,
Because it'd be 4 inches times 3.1.
yeah.
Let me see if I can pull
There you
it.
go.
Be half the diameter times 3.1. R, right? Radius is half the diameter.
That's right, 3.14 times.
Times the
Diameter
radius.
is
Huh?
Everybody's math teacher would be very happy with them this
Yeah,
evening.
radius squared.
Are you suggesting 6 inches as a better measurement?
I think,
6 inches
I
would
like
be
the colors.
approximately a tree this big,
I do.
above 4 feet.
Yeah.
yeah,
Are you comfortable with that?
I am, I mean, it's up to the council, I'm just,
Well, I'm asking your opinion.
to be honest, with you threw this pi r squared thing at me, I'm not sure now what side it is.
But he might have been talking circumference
Says
as
diameter.
opposed to
Right.
diameter.
I
Right,
think that's
exactly.
Yeah,
where it
maybe
came
that's
in.
the impression we
Yeah.
got from Bob. I don't know what
And
the
I
right
did.
number is, but maybe that's why we're thinking 12, and that seemed large, but.
The diameter of a 4-inch tree is approximately 12 and a half inches. I'm
Ah,
sorry, the
there you go.
circumference of
Right.
a
So that makes more
diameter.
sense, alright.
No, it's the same number.
Yeah, it's the same.
No,
thing.
no, I know it's the same number, I'm just.
Correct. A tree with a 4-inch diameter has a circumference of 12.56 inches,
Correct. Still
roughly.
So
It's
it's
still
not,
4 inches.
it's not pi times the radius.
So you wanna go 6 inches
Pi-
diameter?
pi r-
No,
I don't
it's
have an
pi
objection
times
to
the
6
radius
inch
squared.
Oh,
Pi r squared.
radius squared is.
We're gonna
Well, on a 2-inch tree, a radius is 2 by 2 is 4.
We're gonna make a suggestion of 6 inches, but I want Carol to get some input from the environmental commission, make sure it's consistent with what they're looking at, okay? So 4 to 6.
Okay. 186.8. C, small c, an application for a placard as allowed under this ordinance shall be submitted directly to the Borough Forester and shall be approved by the Borough Forester or his delegate within 10 days of receipt by the. So he's gonna review placards for 10 days? You don't
I
just give it to
think
him?
the 10 days is tied to notification period on permits. I think that's good. I think that's why there's some consistent. But the placards is a different story. I think the placard is a quick turnaround.
Yeah, but it says on, C is the application for a placard. Be within 10 days of receipt by the forester. I thought the placard was you came in, you gave Karen your $5 and you got, no,
There's only one.
it's only one what?
Placard and the permit at this point in time are the same
Oh, the same
document.
thing, right.
Do you
But I mean,
do
right now, you
immediately?
give it to someone right away,
They
or?
come in and they want to take down 4 trees, I just give it to them. If they come in and they want more than 5 trees, then I tell them that Bob has to look
But
at it.
every tree now you need a placard.
I don't know what you're so doing, if that's what you're so deciding, every one tree. If they get a placard from me anyway, I give them a green card. Even if it's 1 to 4 trees, they get a green card. So this way, if somebody in the neighborhood says, do you have a permit to take down those trees, they do
Right.
have a permit.
It also puts you on with Bob that he knows that you're cutting trees down, and he's gonna do a drive-by. Not you,
Right.
Bob, the other Bob. You know, so that's the reason for that, but I don't know if he needs 10 days to review it, or,
But, I mean, he's only part-time. I don't know if he needs 10 either, but I think that accounts for
Part-time.
possibly a weekend or two, and the fact that he
If
doesn't
someone
work
comes
full-time.
in at 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and it's a holiday weekend, you know, and he's part-time, et cetera,
I mean, I
so.
don't know if you need 10, but I think the intention is the guy's not waiting here. You know, it might be,
Make it
he
5
might only
business
come in
days.
once a week or
Instead of 10, make it 5 business days.
whatever.
Then you eliminate the weekend problem and the
It
holiday.
sounds like
Better.
most of them get that done.
I would think it gets done in a business.
No, I'm just asking this question, because I know now, if you walk in, Karen, you want your
Right,
placard, she
placard
fills it
is
out, you take it.
Okay, Steve's
So I
recommending
didn't know if.
5 business days, and we'll, you know,
Can I ask you a question, Karen? When you have to refer a request to Bob's 5 trees or more, how long does it, do you know how long it would take him to get out there and get it done?
About a week,
Okay. Like a business week? Like,
counting the weekends,
okay.
about 7 days.
but if the deputy clerk is basically authorized as the designee to act on placards,
Should do that
the
right
placards
away.
happen right away. It's the permits that you're worried about,
Right.
really. So
Mhm.
I think that you can treat placards on an expedited basis just to move them forward.
Okay, so you want to say placards,
Within-
same business day?
Within 5 business days.
Okay.
Say everything's in placards these days, but placards will probably get done a lot quicker. than everything else.
So everything 5 days?
Just to go back to a question Carol asked before, I apologize, I glossed over it. Our existing tree removal ordinance says a tree is the exact same thing, which is 4 inches or greater, measured at a point 4 feet above grade level. So that's chapter 186 now. So what's in here is not that different than what we have. That's either good or bad, but it is the case.
So that was not one of the items changed, is what, it's the same as it was before.
Was before.
What else?
Fees, A. At the end of A, it says, in such a situation, the borough forester may require replacement trees. So if you're cutting down dead trees, he's gonna come on your property and tell you that you need to replace those trees
No,
and.
I think this gives him latitude, it says may require, right, if I'm reading it
Mhm.
correctly.
May require.
This is for people that go in and cut trees without a permit, and he basically has to say, listen, you basically have impacted your neighbor's property, you're going to be subject to replacing trees. I don't think it's replacing a dead tree with a placard. I
Yeah,
think
this
it's-
one-
Which there was also a situation like that in Smoke
over on
Rise.
Birch Terrace.
It says no
Yeah,
permit
or
will be
someone-
required or fees shall be waived for the removal of dead, diseased, or hazardous trees. However, no such tree shall be removed without prior notice of property owners.
No,
to the- or
by the
by the
property
property
owner
owner
to the
borough
forester.
and issuance of a placard for such removal. In such a situation, the borough forester may require replacement trees.
Well, that should be a permit or a placard, because it would be either. I think basically what this means, Jim, it's under fees, but it seems to say to me, if you illegally cut trees,
Mhm.
you may be required, number one, you could have penalties, and number two, you could have to replace them.
Right.
I read it as,
Yes.
if I cut down a dead tree in my property, he could come on my property and
No, I
say,
think-
now you need to put a bush there, and
No, I think what the.
if I don't have the money.
The prior sentence, however, no such trees shall be removed without prior notice by the property owner to the forester, which is essentially the permit process, and the issuance of a permit or placard for such removal. In such a situation, meaning you cut things out without a permit or a placard, the borough forester may determine, the borough forester may require replacement trees. That's not unusual.
That doesn't say without a permit. It says, in such a situation, the borough forester may require you.
Right, but the prior sentence says, however, no such trees may be removed without prior notice by the property owner to the forester and the issuance of a permit or placard. Let's add the word
Oh, I know
permit
what
or
you're saying.
placard. So in other words, that would only apply in essence, if someone violated the ordinance.
Right, if they
Yes.
did it without a
Okay.
placard or a permit.
Right.
You want me to
In that
clarify
case,
that?
That's there.
you
No,
tell
that's-
someone, hey, what you cut down,
But I could
it's
clarify
more than just
by
money, you gotta
saying,
replace it.
something like in such a situation without such prior notice, comma, the borough forester may require.
Right.
Yeah, that would make
Does that make
sense.
sense?
Yeah.
Without such permit or placard.
Right.
Right.
Some towns have also,
What else, Jim?
What
Also
else, Jim?
establish a
Trying to
fund.
move this along.
I'm trying here, B,
B.
fees. There should be submitted, the filing or removal of treasures in the amount of $50 to cover the cost of processing the application. Plus, if you have a permit, it's $10 a tree, and the placard, it's $5.
Yes,
So now if I cut 5 trees, it's costing me an additional, $100 to cut my trees down.
Yeah, the 50 is only for a permit.
Right, and then the tree,
Right,
per tree.
right.
Right, so a placard would only be $5.
Yeah,
You wouldn't have the $50 for a placard, do we agree? Is that,
Right.
No, you still need to.
that I think is what you're saying, Jim, and that Cliff is saying that's not the case.
No, because
No.
placard's not in that.
It says permit, it doesn't say placard, Jim, under B, right? I don't think it says placard in B.
The intention, I think, is a placard is just $5
Right.
total.
Yeah.
A permit is 50 plus 10 per tree,
And then the placard's just $5.
just 5,
Total.
5.
And you guys are right with the
Okay,
50 plus 10 per tree, all right? Mayor, that was your idea?
That's
Okay.
my reading of it.
That's it, isn't it?
And that was it, we talked about E, about the neighbors and all that stuff. And that's the end of my report today.
That was an inquisition, that was not a report.
Jim, correct me, at the last meeting, were you talking about permitting process overall and saying that placard should come before the permit? And there was a certain,
No, I was just saying that a placard is something that should be very simple.
John Schwartz was like,
Right.
so he has to.
$5
to cut your 2 trees down.
Okay.
Right.
okay,
Okay,
It
anything
should be
else,
simple.
anything else on the draft tree ordinance, and if we make the changes, it should be ready to go?
Yep.
One last thing I want to say is that these are actually pages from the code book. I think you had put together an actual ordinance for this,
Well, there were a couple different things. We have our code book,
yeah?
then I had done a draft ordinance based on parts of other communities, and
Okay.
this was a while back, and that may have been the basis for the amendments, but that's been since amended many, many times.
Okay, because this isn't technically an ordinance, it's still just the pages that we're working from, it's not in the ordinance format, et cetera. Is it necessary
Yeah, it
for
would
us
have to be
to,
an ordinance format, sure. I mean,
is that necessary for us to work through and,
no, I mean, once you're happy with, let me just go back. Once you're happy with this, somebody could email it to me and I put the introductory language, the severability clause, the
Okay.
places where we, I would
Alright.
turn it into the front end and the back end.
You'd format it.
okay.
Yeah, basically format.
I'll do that over the next day or so. I'll make these changes, send it out to everybody and send it to
And
you.
then we'll make that
Sure.
happen.
I'll believe it when I see it.
And I will attach it.
Believe it when I open it.
I thought I was going crazy this afternoon.
Me too. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's right there.
So we'll be ready to introduce with
Next
the
week?
appropriate language next week, okay? Cliff, what else?
Oh, sorry. That's my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I deferred my report this evening to talk about a couple of things with you. First and foremost, as we started the meeting, we had a moment of silence to remember 9/11 and the people that lost their lives on that day. Last year, we had an event in town, I think, that was, sparsely attended. And granted, this is an important day in our history, but the county is doing a full event on Sunday, the 13th at 5 p.m. Off of West Hanover Avenue in Morris Township. So we've invited the public really to join in that celebration. There'll be a 21-gun salute. Typically, the fire companies have hung large American flags in the past, and I think the event is just really, I think, something that'll give us an opportunity to come together with not only people from Kinnelon, but also surrounding Morris County residents. Next year, however, is the 15th anniversary, and I think that we really should plan something specifically for the borough. So we'll start that planning process earlier than later next year, but we did lose 3 people from Kinnelon. In fact, tomorrow is the James Martello golf outing, and that event has been ongoing to remember him. But once again, we just want to make sure that people take the opportunity to reflect on the anniversary of 9/11.
I'm sorry, Mayor. What was the
5
date
p.m.
and location?
5 p.m. The 13th, and it's West Hanover Avenue in Morris Township, and it's where the memorial, the county memorial for the 9/11 victims is.
There's also directions right on the website.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And we did put it on the website. Karen did a good job, but anyway, we had some people from the public just inquiring if we were doing something this year, but I think that this will give us an opportunity really to participate, I think, in a special event with the county.
Yeah, Butler and Bloomingdale are also doing services tomorrow night, I think.
In the past, they've done candlelight walks, and I've had conversations with the mayors, and they've told me that unfortunately sometimes the attendance is not what they're hoping for as well. But you think about it, there are kids, maybe 14, 15 years old, that don't remember that day the way we do. And it's really telling how fast time goes by, but like I said, we want to make sure that we're honoring people and remembering them. So I think that's the intent this year. In your packet, tab 6 is a letter from Dan Kelly from the PRBSA. And it speaks about sequestration, and this is really regards to the sale of the 91,000 gallons of excess capacity by both Bloomingdale and Kinnelon to Riverdale. We have an agreement in place that's fully executed. We have the appropriate approvals. So I think that at this particular point in time, I know that the mayor of Bloomingdale has been in conversation with the mayor of Riverdale to find out exactly what he is asking for at this particular point in time. It doesn't invalidate, I think, the transaction as was set forth and agreed upon by the municipalities previously, but I think there may be additional consideration that may in fact present itself, which will be positive for, I think, all three towns. So I don't see this as anything other than, once again, Riverdale reassessing exactly what they're hoping to achieve by the purchase of the excess capacity. Referendum. At the last meeting, I think that the council in total indicated that they in fact would be interested in moving forward with a public referendum on turf. And I just want to make sure that as we move forward that I understand and I'm on the same page with you, because I think that if I heard correctly, it really was the fact that there was no set dollar amount for the expenditure set forth in any prior conversation. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and if in fact we're going to do this, this would be a special election. I know it's a little premature to talk about this without having language presented, but once again, I just want to make sure that we're all in lockstep on this. So we are moving forward with a referendum on turf once we have dollar amounts involved,
And we've had the educational seminars, whatever you want to call
Because
them.
we
well, I
may
want to know
decide-
what all the pieces are. That's why.
Yeah, those are the pieces as well as all the information on what it's gonna cost and how long maybe it's gonna incapacitate the field, something like that, information, and have at least one seminar, if you wanna call it, I don't know whether it's a seminar or a forum.
Informational meeting.
An
whatever it's
informational
called. Yeah,
meeting.
Or
informational.
at least one.
Well, I thought it was important really to communicate back to the Board of Education, because I want to make sure that they're fully aware of where we are. So, the coordinating committee, I would ask that you indicate that in fact at last month's meeting there was some discussion about the subject, and it's not that, once again, the council has changed its opinion. The majority council, I think, still supports moving forward with the project, but this is layered in that discussion and decision process. So, okay.
There might be one other small point, which is the Board of Elections and County Clerk doing special elections for public questions.
Right.
And right now, I don't know that that's a guarantee by a long shot. I have a call in with the county clerk's office. I've discussed it with the county clerk in other counties, but I'm going to get the answer from Morris, because that's where we are. And actually, it was suggested that I reach out to the new county council, Mr. Napolitano. Apparently, there was a shift in county. John. So that will be my project tomorrow. A young lady called me back today from the county clerk's office just before she was leaving and really was not able to focus on that answer. So again, we may want to do that. First off, I think it's clear we don't want to do it until we have all the information.
Sure.
But even when we have all the information, I want to make sure that it's as easy as contacting the clerk and ordering up an election.
Yeah.
Because they may not see it that way, but I will get you an answer on that. Okay?
Great. And I find that.
With that being said, I mean, we're meeting with the Board of Ed, well, we don't know when, but it's soon.
Yeah.
But their question's gonna be about the leaching test.
The perk tests.
The perk test, I'm sorry, thank you.
Well,
And I don't think they're gonna pay for it, but that's the last step of knowing how much this is gonna cost.
Well, I think that we have a number, do we not?
Yes, it's $7,000 is what Master Engineering has told me.
So,
But there were other, they said that they would cover the bulldozer and the operator for the equipment, et cetera, but
okay, I'm asked
I
that
would guess it would be more.
I'm asked that the coordinating committee report back on a recommendation of council on basically incurring additional expense. In fact, if the agreement is with the Board of Education that we're going to do that. I think we committed $30,000.
Yes, we did.
Excuse me,
And I think
initially.
we're over that.
And so, in fact, the intent was to secure permits, and that was the will of the council. I think we need to talk about that and have an understanding from the Board of Education. But I think that it's really up to the coordinating committee to come back, inform the finance chair and myself of what your recommendations. Okay?
I'm just talking off the top of my head, but from the 30,000, I think it was over by 14.
14,000. Well, let's get some clarity and some numbers together so we can talk about it intelligently, okay?
I think it was over 6, and then this would make it over 14.
Well, that's why we get
Six,
numbers.
they were
That's
just,
why
you
we
know,
need the
And I think
clarification.
6, they were covering that 6, because we didn't have anything to do with it, that was already
And I
spent.
think October 1st will fit, be our meeting.
I haven't had a chance since I saw your email to get back with Diane. I hadn't heard back from Carrie yet as to time or place. It is the first week of school, and I think they're pretty much swamped. So she had reached out to me. I reached out to her a couple of times, and I didn't hear anything back until today. So, but yes, they were. It looked more like the 1st or the 5th.
That's really the question. Okay.
And I know Dan wanted to talk about salt this evening, or I wanted to talk about salt, but I want to stay a little proactive, because I think all too often, you know, governing bodies are forced into making decisions without not having enough lead time. So next month, I'm going to ask that you, between now and next work session, present to me and the clerk ultimately any professionals that you would like to see some consideration on requests for proposals for 2016. So that'll give us a little lead time so that we're not pressed with, you know, ultimately meeting with professionals in a short time frame.
Should we do the same for other appointments?
Sure.
I mean, there
Sure.
are, I don't have them all, but I mean, there are always committee and.
Yeah, we've been
Board
advertising.
appointment.
We've been advertising through the normal process, and I think that we have 2 appointments for consideration on tonight's agenda. We had a difficult time in filling Environmental Commission, so you know, I didn't know the appointments come under a little bit of a different, you know, advertising consideration perspective. But sure, if you have people that you think would make good representatives on open, or if we have expiring terms, I think that's the other
Yeah,
side too.
that's, I
you
think
know.
people just know what terms are expiring and.
Well, we have an opening on the rec commission as an alternate, and that's going on the website. And the rec commission asked me how this person is selected, and I didn't know what to tell them.
Well, typically, you know, I look to the commissions and chairs to make recommendation back and present, and we have a discussion here, but if they have somebody in mind with
I mean,
credentials.
they've gotten probably 4 or 5 people that are interested already.
Right.
So I didn't know if do I form a committee with the rec commission? and
No,
let
you
them-
take the recreation committee and look at their recommendation, look at the other candidates who are presented, just to make sure that they haven't chosen unwisely. Okay.
So 5-year term, right?
Yeah, it's a state
It's
law.
5, yeah.
It's a state law, 5 years. Crazy.
And the last thing I want to touch upon this evening really is a point that I broached with Cliff. I just want to make sure that we're well coordinated. And I think that all too often we get tied up with some of our personal and professional challenges, and we're just not keeping each other informed. I typically have 2 council people that reach out to me pretty much on a regular basis. I think that there are other issues that come to the table that you know, sometimes are just not communicated as well as they can be. So I'm going to ask you to refocus on your commitment to the committee chairs in particular, and keep me apprised, so that as the CEO I can continue to hopefully assist in the process of running the borough the way that we all wanted to see it be run. But at this particular point in time, I know that you're offering to talk to Lisa. The tax department really comes under finance.
Well,
So,
to be honest, I walked into Lisa in the hallway and she said, no one's talked to her. Anybody.
well, and that's
None of us. So I said, well, let me talk to her.
Well, and that's
That's how that works.
That's part of. I don't want to get into the weeds here, but that's part of the problem. You know, committee chairs holding committee meetings without adequate notification to their membership. I mean, we should be working together here. So, you know, there's always exceptions, and I can accept that. But if in fact people are scheduling meetings, they should extend the courtesy to their committee members and colleagues to say, listen, we're going to have a meeting next Wednesday. Are you available? And I just think we've gotten a little bit off track on that side. I just want to make sure that we get refocused to, you know, being as effective as possible. I think that, you know, that you know, you're meeting with, you know, individual people within the borough, which is fine, under your responsibility as committee chair. But once again, I just want to make sure we're where we need to be as far as communication. And that's it from the soapbox this evening. So, moving on, if there's nothing else from the committees tonight, we are moving to hearing from the public. Would anyone from the public wish to be heard this evening?
about,
Yeah, the statement
yeah.
addressed, and we do, in fact, so step by the table. We in fact do record our meetings at the work session as well.
Camille Gaines, Wilshire Terrace. Regarding the garbage and recycling, I don't know if you've ever reached out to Waste Management, but Waste Management was the provider of garbage and recycling in our complex, the apartments, and I think still does. They worked for 9 of the 10 years that was there. And then I think they're still doing it with the apartments. They do Montville, they do many of the towns around here. They're a huge provider.
We don't get to reach out.
We advertise.
We advertise for public.
Can you advertise more aggressively?
Oh,
We
absolutely.
I mean, like pick up the phone? I mean, I've
No.
talked to them personally.
No,
No.
we cannot pick bidders and make phone calls to special bidders that we like. We advertise in public according to the statute. People pick up their bid packages. I think 4 or 5 people did pick up bid packages. Those that chose to submit. It would be a gross violation of the process to call people.
How is it you only got one?
Well, I mean,
They're already coming to town here.
well, one thing the garbage guy says, try driving a garbage truck through Basin Lakes, and it's, you know, a lot of these people look at it and be like, this is crazy, you know.
We don't traditionally get a lot of them.
We don't, yeah.
Right.
But the truth is, this time we only got one. I will tell you, I also only got one in New Milton.
Okay.
So it's not as common as it seems.
Right, okay, it just, throw it out there, because they're coming to Kinnelon anyway.
Yeah.
And they were doing very, very, you know, they did a great job before.
They may have been one of the
I
ones that
spent
picked up
years
the
training
package
them to
and
go
just
around
chose
the
not
corner.
Okay, that's one. And then just like on clear cutting, I have a question. What is the ratio, if you cut down trees, and if you cut down trees, what is about the ratio for replacement?
What do you mean?
Well, like if
one
you cut
for
down
one?
20 trees, what generally do they have you replace it with? How many do they have you replace?
Again, it's up to the forester to determine basically the concern with requiring people to replace is if you're eliminating screening between properties.
Yeah.
So if you do that, then you have to replace those, so your next door neighbor doesn't have to look at your house.
Oh, okay, because I know, I have a friend of mine who sold her home, and the guy came in and clear cut.
Right,
I mean, a lot of trees.
right.
I mean, I have pictures here, which is really very alarming. And he's just putting in 20.
Okay.
But does it seem that?
Sometimes it's the type of tree more than
The number.
I know that Forester in the past, we had a piece of property in town there that was clear cut, and neighbors were upset, and Forester basically made that individual come in and the homeowner and replace it with white pines, which typically, you know, are pretty rapid growing trees as opposed to.
This is the backyard now, and apparently, as I understand it, was full of trees.
Oh, this whole area?
Yes, full of trees, and now it's, I mean, it looks a little, I mean, that to me looks like a clear cut. And, maybe
Are they in the rec program?
we could put our field there.
I was just gonna say, are they in the rec
Knock down the
program?
house, the house probably was only about 500,000, you could have bought the house and put the field right there, it's on the corner.
I like that idea.
Our current ordinance says, in addition to the foregoing penalties, each person who removes or otherwise destroys the trees in violation of the ordinance, which
Right.
would be clear cutting, may be required to replace the tree or trees with another of a like or superior species, not less than 2 inches diameter, 4 feet above the ground, or in the alternative, submit a replacement assessment to provide for replacement by the borough. The replacement assessment amount for the latter activity shall be determined in accordance with criteria for calculation of tree replacement costs set forth in a statute. So that's currently now. Now, whether that happened or not, I don't know, but
Because I know, I visited the neighbors were very upset because he said, well, now my fuel bill's gonna go up because now I have no wind barrier. All those trees are gone. Now this is just, the person in the back, I understand that was hearsay, but I actually spoke to this person across the street. And they were saying, now my heating bill's gonna go up because because the wind's gonna come, I have no barrier. and all they had is a row of a few evergreens.
What's the address, Camille?
This is Powderhorn, I think it's 6 Powderhorn.
Oh,
Do you know if they
I know
got a
who the-
permit to?
Well, apparently I did. I talked to Karen and she said, yes, he did. I don't know how many trees officially were up there beforehand, but she told me that he only has to replace it with 20. So, I mean, it was just, when you talk about clear cut, all I know is having spoken to the neighbor, I happened to meet the neighbor, and they brought up about it, and they were very disturbed. So I was just, when you talk about clear cut, I thought, is that what they call clear cut?
Pretty much,
I
yeah,
heard
that's
about
why it
this from the
says in
former
an
owner
area,
of the property.
that's an area.
But no, our current ordinance, remember, that's what we're trying to enact.
Right.
Our current ordinance says clear cutting is the removal of all standing trees from a designated parcel
That
of
looks
land.
pretty,
I don't know if it is or it isn't, I'm not
That's-
arguing, I'm saying, the definition is
All
not
the trees.
area. And in the existing ordinance, the definition is the removal of all standing trees from a designated parcel of land.
well, I don't know. All I can say is if that's what you, I think if that's what you want to have, okay, and if that's what you want to avoid, just,
Well, the way the new ordinance is written would hopefully prevent
yeah.
that,
I mean,
as
because
opposed to the
this is
current
what
ordinance.
happened recently, and
Right.
so this is, a little sad, I think, and I know neighbors are upset.
And I think our intent is, once the ordinance is adopted, to actually give it some social media and to push it out there to let people know. Because I think that sometimes people take action not realizing, in fact, there are certain laws on the books that prohibit that. So
I
I think
guess
it's going
it
to be a
must
little bit of a social media, push here to let people know that we in fact have a procedure in place that needs to be followed.
It had also been suggested by the Environmental Commission that perhaps reaching out to realtors with the new ordinance and to different landscaping companies within the borough and building companies within the borough to inform them of the new ordinance so that they would have it in hand and would know.
Right. I mean,
As an educational
Right, because I mean, the
key.
comment that I got from the previous owner, they took down 70 trees. Now, she didn't go out there and count everyone before she left. But obviously, she said it was full of trees, backyard full of trees.
Mhm.
And now they're replacing with 70. I mean, with 20, it doesn't, maybe I'd like to maybe see the permit. Maybe, well, I guess when they do a permit, would it have it down how many trees he had to maybe that's what I wanted to find out, is how many,
Yeah, get the permit,
yeah,
see what it
what it
says.
actually says, because, that seems rather,
Maybe he wants a backyard for his kids.
I guess he does. But it was interesting, the neighbor's comment, I never even thought about his concern about, oh, now my heating bill's gonna go up because of the, I lost a barrier, a natural barrier. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's an
It
interesting.
wasn't his barrier though. I said, as Jim said, and I'm not opining one way or another, but if the guy had the right, if he got a permit
Right,
and he was granted permission to
Right.
take the trees down,
Right.
he's not obligated to block the wind from another property.
no,
Just saying.
absolutely not, but, no, but I'm just wondering, my question was, if
Yeah.
you can cut down 70, how many, or let's say 70, how many do you have to replace it with? If you're only replacing a ratio of 1 to 5?
It sounds like from the ordinance, it's a professional, it's a decision of the professional who knows, who's a trained forester to make that decision.
Right,
Well, why don't
okay,
you get the permit and see what happens?
yeah, okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to be heard this evening?
I guess there's some good news in town. We came near the bottom of the number of people in town registered with Madison National.
Randy, I'm sorry, please,
I think that's pretty good.
could you please state your name and address for the
Randall
record?
Charles, Green Hill Road. So I think we'd all be pretty proud, we did a pretty good
I
job.
did notice that it was like, what, 50 and
We're like
town
third
said
from the
like
bottom.
thousands, yeah.
Yeah, we're a third from the bottom, so I guess that's good, or we have a boring town. Anyway, something a little on a serious note. In 2013, New Jersey Monthly ranked Kinnelon number 43 as a desirable community to live in. That's big. Just goes on the web, it goes all over the place. The realtors run with it, it's really a feather in our hat. The criteria has been quite consistent. All the towns are measuring on the same thing. Yeah, we can argue on methodology, but once the click button entered and it's online and goes viral, that's it. We have no control of it, good, bad, or indifferent. That was in 2013. In 2015, it just came out. We didn't do very well. We came in at 162. for the borough. And I'm sort of amazed, Pequannock jumped up to number 4 from number 14. Montville went down a little bit. Oakland, East Hanover, Mountain Lakes took a bigger dive. But the big thing is the criteria, and that's what I'm here to talk about, because this affects all of us, and it's all linked. Brought this up last week at the Board of Ed, and I'm bringing it up here, because it's all linked. Contrary to anybody says, the criteria is the same. What are the big criteria? They measured the residential tax bill in 2014, the change in the average property tax bill 2012-2014, effective property tax rate for 2014, median home sales price 2014, change in median home sales price 2012 through 2014, total crime rate 2013, violent crime 2013. This is the kicker. Student proficiency on state mandated standardized tests for students in grades 4, 8, and 12, 2014. Then they go into the lifestyle, which is hospitals, theater, social restaurants, all within our zip code and within 2 miles of our zip code. And this is probably a kicker, is the commute time. We don't do very well with commute time. But we dropped significantly from 43 to 162. I think we need to be cognizant of that, because this is all linked across the street. In the last 3 years, our school district has been dropping. And I brought that up last week, and they weren't too thrilled about it. We didn't make the top 500 high schools in the country. We didn't even make it.
Grant,
We're
can I
not
ask
in
you?
the top 50, but I like to bring it up and suggest is that it's something we have to pay attention to here.
Can I ask you a question? I looked at that list too, and I'll be honest with you, I couldn't figure out why we dropped, or were you able to figure out?
I
It's
was
very confusing.
I was looking at them. I asked a couple people in other towns who aren't too thrilled. Livingston, Sparta's ecstatic, Riverdale's ecstatic, but they had the same comments, and they said, Rain, the only thing we're getting a finger on is they put extra weight on the schools, they put extra weight on the taxes, and I said, well, I understand that. I said, but we're all judged on the same criteria. I mean, when Riverdale moves up, you know, what can I say? But then when I see Bloomingdale, the bottom one, 500, and West Milford, you know, that's the death bell.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I would say our tax rates haven't helped, and our median sales prices are dropping.
Right.
But I think they're dropping in a good part of the
Right,
state
that's what I
anyway.
mean, yeah.
So
It's hard to figure out.
now, when you look at Milburn, Florham Park, Madison, Ridgewood, some certain areas, they're stabilized, and we're going to market and test it out in Bergen County, and some down in Milburn, Short Hills.
Can I ask you a question? When you spoke to those other towns, and yes, everybody ranked consistently, but did they change, do you know if they felt they changed the weight, say, more on education from last year to this year?
That was the two
That's-
consensus, was education, and that may be feedback because of the park crap that's going on, all this testing.
Right.
I think that's sort of,
Mhm.
you know, collateral.
Yeah.
But is the taxes, let's face it, we're one of the towns that's considered in Trenton, you know, wealthy or well off, or rephrase it, well off. They want our money to go down into the other 30, 40 districts that we're supporting. And that's not going to change, it's probably going to accelerate next year. But the key was, Cliff, to your point, was education. And they felt the tax rates and the median sales home rates, because they're dropping. And I said, well, what about spending money? And of course that was, well, we're doing a great job on the borough end. We have no control in the Board of Ed end. I mean, that was universal. Every town is getting hammered on the Board of Education because we can't vote on it. They can do whatever they want, meet the caps, and keep raising it. But I think it's very important that we pay attention to it, because I hate to say it, we pride ourselves as a fabulous community, not just for the environment. I told them last week, that's our pride and joy over there. Our school district, people come to this town, they love our school district. It's dropping, and it's not good, and they didn't get any straight answers on it. But it may be time to turn around and say, look, we're doing our end over here. We did something most towns didn't do in 2015. We had no real tax increase. And that's a testament to everybody. It's a big deal. And that's why I harped on the sewer money. To have a town to turn around and go, we're flattening it out and maintaining our services, that's a testament. Nobody's doing it. Kinnelon's doing it, that's a big deal. But when you Google it, it shows up, we don't show up in the top 100. We're not in the top 500, we're not in the top 50 schools in the state. Those are symptoms, they're signs. Because these signs don't turn around that quickly. They take 2, 3, 4 years to turn it around. And the point I'd like to suggest is we have a coordinating committee with the turf. Well, I think there's enough here for us to turn around and say, maybe we need a coordinating committee across the street, and let's put our heads together and figure out how to turn this around. Because this doesn't turn on a dime. This is trying to get an elephant, to make a sharp right turn. It doesn't happen. It takes time. It's a slow turn before we can reverse it. But it is to go back, and we have to sit down across the street and say, okay, here's what we're going to try to do. How can we help you over there? How can you help us without violating law? Because we have to keep the firewalls up. Well, here's what we can do, because I think it works. Because I understand Livingston, a couple of the towns are doing that right now, because they're in the same boat. I mean, Livingston fell off the charts too, and they're trying to figure that out. So did Mountain Lakes. Mountain Lakes fell off big time.
What do you think we can do as a council to help the Board of Ed?
Experience and guidance, help them come back and put a vision together and say, here's where we need to go, because we're all in this together. It's not just them and us, it's we. We're in this together. And we need to put ourselves in a very good position. I mean, it's not a criticism. We're coming here with proactive to say, let's address it. It affects everything. It affects the school, it affects the kids when they want to go to college. It's going to affect the formulas, because we're going to get killed next couple of years to support the Abbott district. Let's face it, we're not getting any more school aid. It's not coming up. They're going to hit us for more of the Abbott districts, especially now that we've become the #1 destination for illegal aliens in this country. We got rated #1, New Jersey. And so that means there's going to be a lot of people coming in here with kids going into schools. Where's this going to be paid for? Who's going to cover it? The suburbs aren't growing. The urban areas are growing. Good, bad, or indifferent. But to take the time to come back and put a couple other people on it. You're absolutely right what you said before, Steve, having other people come from the outside. Some professionals come in, not on the council, not on the board, to come in ad hoc and come in as an advisory and say, look, yeah, we have this expertise and we can come back and offer this. Because there's things that we're going to have to look ahead. We can't have, I mean, here's the top 100 towns, who sponsors it? Coldwell Banker. And then, hello, here's the real estate companies supporting this. Well, that doesn't help us. We're trying to keep our housing flat. We're not declining 10, 15, 20%. And yet when you see it, and you ask a good question, because Cliff, we went down. Our selling prices, and they're looking at that, and they're looking at our tax rates the last 2 years. And on Kinnelon, we're 162.09% was our median home price change since 2012. Now that's measuring everybody. So can I explain why we dropped from 43 to 162? No, I can't. But the damage is done. Because Coldwell Banker, the real estate companies are sponsoring this stuff. And it's online. So now we get Googled, because the people we want to move in town, the families we want to come in town, they're Googling. They're doing their homework, they're researching, they're checking. Kinnelon, Mountain Lakes, Milburn, Ridgewood, Urban Farm, Oakland. I mean, do I want to go over to Bergen County? Do I want to go down into Huntington County or Summit or Madison? I mean, Florham Park was #1. They were surprised. They went #1. Pequannock, friends down there were like, oh no, my taxes are going to go up now. We're #4. That was their first reaction. But I just like to close, just to say that this is an opportunity. Is it good for us? No. But it is an opportunity. How do we come back and fix it? Do we want to fix it? And I think that's going to be a real question. Because this is going to hurt. It's going to hurt us. Because if we're not a desirable community based on our education, we don't have the greatest transportation, we got no trains, we're killed in transportation, we don't have the greatest social services in the area. You know, we don't have the Rhino, we don't have, you know, the different theaters. You gotta go over to Morristown, or you gotta go down to Millburn. We're at a disadvantage. So what do? What's our prime goal? We have a fabulous education system, we gotta turn it around. We gotta turn that around too. That's being done tonight. And as to suggest to the council, please, let's look at this proactively, pull together, because this affects everybody, all of us. And I'm going to leave that at that. Because I have the same question, Cliff. Everybody's asking the same questions, but we're all judged on the same criteria. That's the kicker, and it's online now. So you do your homework. You know, people are googling their cars, researching their cars.
I know the answer. Turf.
Well,
Okay.
I'm just going to say.
Thanks, Cliff.
Wait,
No, for the record, I want to say thank you.
Well, I'm just going to say, turf is not one of the criteria mentioned in here. So it's apropos, Cliff. It's apropos. No, it's not good. It's not an issue.
Quantic has 2, Millburn has 1, and East Hanover has 4.
And Butler was defeated in 2008. Pompton Lakes is having a battle because of the flood zone. Take your pick. West Milford, the rec program can't get on their field. Take your pick. 5 major city high schools in LA just had their fields shut down. They melted in the heat. And I'm not making fun of it, it's bad, because you really want the kids to play. And I'm just saying,
I think we have to go.
Let you go.
Carol's developing the meeting.
But anyway, that's where you are, but on an important note, there's an
Thanks,
opportunity.
Cliff.
But there is an opportunity. Let's think, I mean, really, we have to think about it. This is gonna take 3 years to turn around. It took 2-3 years for this to come down. How do we turn it around proactively, positively? And maybe it is an aggressive, I hate to say it, marketing. Marketing is education. Somebody doesn't buy something because it really looks good. They tend to think about it and it has to have an end benefit. They're educated.
Well, we're also going to rate a town on transportation and restaurants and stuff like that. Of course, we're going to drop and fall off the charts.
But
We can't compete against East
But we-
Hanover or Millburn or.
no, but our education is dropping too. That's a problem. And we have to somehow figure out, come around and get it back and slowly turn it. Maybe you're right, we can't. Maybe we can't. I don't know. But we were 43rd. We've been doing pretty well all these years. We have. And now we're sliding. Well, we didn't slide. We were 43 to 162. And so did Mountain Lake and so did Livingston. But others went up. So I can't explain it. But if we don't want to pay attention to it and go along as we are, the next surveys come out, they're online. People are looking at this, Coldwell Banker, Century 21. Who's the big one on the internet? Zillow. Oh my God, the stuff on Zillow. You get a chance to see the Zillow website. People are all hitting that. It doesn't help us. So maybe it is sitting down and say, all right, we're going to have, like the police department has, a public information officer. And we're going to put our public information, start laying it out, and start feeding it into the web. Or start getting it out and saying, here's where we are. Our tests in fourth graders, 6th graders, 8th graders, and 11th graders, they're growing. We're doing very well. We maybe need to get stuff out, be proactive. I mean, and is it hard? No. Is it consistency? Yes. And being disciplined to do it. And laying out a small business, not hard. And we're willing to help on it. I'm willing to help on this because this is a fabulous town. We have so much here, and I don't know what to tell you. It's just, we deserve to be 162nd. Maybe in the top 100, but not 162nd. You know, thank God we're not in the bottom 100. I'm sure they're not very happy campers in West Milford and Bloomingdale right now. You know, and I don't wish that on any of them. I don't see them up at the license weekend. I don't want to hear about that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to be heard this evening? If not, I'll close to the public and now move on to the payment of bills. The bills list September 17th. If in fact you have questions, I would ask that you please reach out to Jennifer before the next meeting next week. Under the consent agenda, we have a number of refunds for tax certificates and tax sales. We also have a resolution that we need to take action on, and this is authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement between the County Morris and the Kinnelon Municipal Alliance. This is the award, I think, that we received notification on last $2,000. So, I don't know if there's any discussion, but if not, someone offer that, please.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Also, minutes for May and June and July, so 3 months that under consideration for adoption or approval, I should say, next week as well. We have the payment of the school tax, $2,959,450.83, and under new business, we have the tree removal ordinance establishing salary ranges, and I think we had some conversation about adding acting positions to that, so we'll take care of that for next week. We also have ordinance 1015, ordinance authorizing capital improvements for the boiler at the Cole Museum. That cost is approximately $15,000 from the state.
The only thing I'm gonna do with that ordinance, Mayor, is I got this format from Lou Mays. It's definitely not a common thing to do to fund things this way. I'm gonna just run this by him now that we've created it, get his approval of it before we carry it through the agenda next week, okay?
Okay.
You have a question?
I always have questions, you know that.
Well, now's the time.
I know we talked about this last time, 15,000 for a boiler, that's a good price? That sounds like a lot of money for a boiler in
Okay.
that size house.
It's a 1940s building. It's a
Okay.
20-year-old boiler. It's cast iron pipes. And
So it's not just the boiler.
So they're gonna replace all that?
Everything.
if it needs to. John Whitehead wanted to go a little high as opposed to having to come back and ask for more, is essentially what it was.
Okay.
Also, he said that while you're doing this, it would be best to go through and also do all the thermostats for the individual radiators, because
Okay,
there were the
that's
old
fair.
radiators in the rooms.
So it's not just a boiler?
So,
So it's not just the boiler.
Now, did we find out how many people actually visit the lake?
Oh, you're-
I'm just curious.
no.
Thanks, Jim.
But
You guys
It is
are
the
buying,
state
you guys are
historic
buying
marker
coffee
in our
next
town.
week.
So what are we gonna do? We're not gonna fix the boiler because
I don't know.
there's not enough people
It seems like
walking
we
in on
throw
a
a lot.
weekly
It
basis?
seems like we throw a lot of money into this building. all
Well, the
time.
goal, Dan, is to get this building up to par where you can now have meetings there and stuff.
Yes.
That would be great.
That's really cool.
We used to have, like, the CLL music class used to meet there, but
Right.
because of the construction, et cetera,
Yeah.
they're not there
It's too
anymore.
cold.
I think we
Yeah.
talked about that
It's
coming out of
cold.
open space.
We should get a new boiler.
I don't
That's
think it's an
fine.
open space consideration. I
No?
really take, no, I take.
It's not historical?
It is, no, it's, the open space is for active and passive recreation.
No, it's
So-
it's an open space recreation and historical trust fund.
Historic preservation,
Preservation.
we're preserving I mean, we
Boiler.
had
This
an
is-
ordinance back in 2008 that said no to maintenance on fields. This is maintenance of a building, not preservation of a building. This is, maintenance is,
I don't know. You can't
Sounds
preserve
the
it.
same to me.
If you look at the interpretive statement on the open space trust fund as established, it's not, I think it's pretty narrowly defined. So if you want to go back and review that, we can, but I think that, we ended up in a situation exactly what Carol just described, where we actually put forth a referendum a number of years ago to use the open space dollars
For maintenance.
field maintenance, and field maintenance was similarly rejected on a very large basis, so I think you weighed that into the conversation, but look at the interpretive statement. Okay? We have those introductions. Next week we have the appointments, and we've been having a difficult time filling environmental commission. These people are not as interested as maybe we would hope, but we do have in fact two people that are interested in serving, Tom Klein and Lisa Hanks. Resignations, we have Lisa Kankowski, whose last day is tomorrow. So if you haven't had the opportunity to wish her well, maybe an opportunity to do that. And we have Michael Papadopoulos,
Papadopoulos.
very close, and he's going to school, so we're looking for some replacements from
What grade is he?
He's senior.
He's a senior, he's graduated this
So they're
year.
looking for a senior or a
Looking
junior?
Oh, we actually have 2 openings for high school students. We have a sophomore at the moment, so, no, is he? Pranav Reddy, I believe he is a freshman last year. No, he's a junior this year, excuse me. So we're looking for a sophomore and a senior, or a freshman and a sophomore.
What are the requirements? My son's a sophomore. What would give you?
Well, their meetings are the second Wednesday of every month, 7:30, in this room.
And someone that's expressing an interest in, open space environment
Right.
within the town. Someone with
Well,
an
I've
understanding.
talked about, there's certainly land preservation, looking for active land,
But
land for
these-
active recreation now.
These are full committee members, and I think that's a little different than some towns. This actually came from Mayor Sisko's recommendation a couple of years ago that we basically join students in the process, and I think it's been really well received. In fact, a number of the students actually are pretty actively involved. They're just not looking for resume builders. So I think that it really gives them opportunity. And I think committee members, and I know Steve sat on that committee, actually asked for the input from the students, I think, which is pretty special. And,
Yes.
Full members.
You know, so.
I'd be interested to talk to them about it.
Both the 2005 and the 2012 open space plans are on the website. They're also available in the different libraries, both in the schools and in the public library. And I happen to find 2 clean copies in my house that are not all thumbed and dog-eared that I could loan out if they need them to look through as well.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else for open,
One more question.
I want to tell you, before you say anything, I had a goal this evening. I looked at the agenda and I said, this is a 2-hour meeting. And I looked at Carol's report and I said, what are you doing here?
I
And
read
then
very
And then I
fast.
looked at Adam's report and I said, that was probably the best report that Adam's ever did. And so
And that's my night.
it all went to,
With the heck in a
it all went
handbasket.
to where it went pretty quickly. But
This
go
is
ahead.
just a quick, Carol, you mentioned that and I forgot to ask you when you're doing your report, the Board of Health didn't have a meeting again.
Right.
That's like the 4th or 5th month in a row that they haven't had a meeting. Is there a reason, or do they not need it, or?
I didn't hear why. I can find out.
Right? I mean,
Well, if they're not doing
Find out.
septics and some other things, I mean, if they have no business coming before them,
There's nothing on the
it's
agenda.
definitely have a meeting. I know that they just did the poison poster contest,
I think it was May.
May. I think that last meeting. Any other questions?
No, it's in my report.
I have one other point, very quickly. With regard to the Face and Lakes and the Girl Scout request, we discussed it at the, and I apologize for leaving off my report earlier. We discussed it at committee level, and barring, as far as the letter of credit, there's no point in having them pay for it, for a face amount of a letter of credit greater than the debt. There's no, okay? And as far as Face and Lakes, we looked at the numbers, and they're collecting more in their debt service fund than the bond. So to require them for that to continue to grow for the next 10 or 20 years, and then have to go out and borrow to fix their pool, we're talking about 1/3 of the borough here being affected. I think the committee said that barring any legal prohibition in the original loan documents, we would recommend that they be allowed to, and we can go over the numbers at some point, once we find out if there's a legal prohibition.
And they'll pay the legal fees? Our legal fees.
If you want them to.
I'd like them to, because I think that the commitment fee, I just did a $2 million line of credit at my company, and it literally was.
Well, they have to pay for the letter of credit, but instead of being for, and I don't recall the numbers, instead of being for $2 million, now that the loan is down to $1 million, why should they be forced to pay on a face value letter of credit for $2 million? It just costs more.
Right, but I told
And
you-
we have no more coverage.
But my cost was $500 with Providence.
For what? For the,
$2 million line of credit, as opposed to.
yeah, but
$1
they're
million.
paying that anyway. We're
As
just,
opposed to $1 million, which was, $350.
Yeah.
The cost savings was So,
Small.
they're right.
Well, they're asking for it though, and if it's no skin off our nose.
Well, as long, yeah, but his time's worth something. I'd like to believe that he went to law school and.
You could believe that if
know,
you choose to.
Is deserved to make a living for his family. The kids get
Thank you.
hungry once in a while, so.
I'm sure I'm not gonna charge, I'm sure I'm not gonna charge the Girl Scouts.
Whatever the recommendation is. And the Girl Scout cookies prices have
Yes.
just gone up
If there's a
exponentially.
legal bill, I'm sure Faison Lakes would be happy to pay it.
The cookies have gone up exponentially this
Does
year. I
the
don't know
bar
why,
factor
what that's all about,
You
but,
get credits for legal
you know.
services.
Okay, the
My two big
cookies,
clients, Girl Scouts and Keebler Elves.
anything else for open? Okay, with the public's understanding, we have to go into close to talk about some negotiations this evening. So I'll ask for a motion to go into, Mark, if you could frame the,
Yes, Mayor, I understand there'll be a motion if requested by the chair. In order to go into close for the purpose of discussing union negotiations, we have our labor attorney here to discuss those matters, as well as any other matter which may come up in close. I would anticipate being in close for something of less than half an hour, and when we emerge, action may or may not be taken.
thank you. Someone to offer that, please.
I'll make that motion.
Someone second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are in close.
Come on down, you're the next contestant.
Fabulous gifts and prizes?
Yeah.
Good evening.
Mayor.
I'll make a statement on the record. I understand that you went to law school as well.
Yes,
And-
that's-
And
that's-
you'd like to make
that's
some
what I've
money
heard.
this evening, so,
That's the rumor.
Thank you.
Not only did I go, I was forced to put my son through law school.
You suffered twice in every way.
and both my son and daughter as well, so,
Well, at least I didn't have to pay for that.
great
Spending some
empathy.
time.
Great empathy.
Yeah,
You got more of these for,
yeah, I was gonna.
Take a pass.
do them both ways?
Not, yeah.
Okay.
I was in school. In fact, I teach now, so.
Okay, want to welcome Brian.
Sure, this is, thank you. This is a memorandum of agreement that was actually prepared by the IBEW attorney. As the mayor and council are aware, we've been negotiating this contract for a pretty extended period of time. They had a rather large list of demands. We've been whittling away at it. And I've gone through this. This is a revision based upon some comments that the committee had. And this is what we're down to. Most of this, by the way, it's my understanding the mayor and council has already approved, at least in theory. We've been before you once before. At least I have a meeting, a closed session and a meeting, so we'll just run through it. The period of the contract is 3 years. However, there's only a little over a year left on it because there's 2 years that have already expired. Everything is retroactive to the 1st of January 2014, so there will be some retro checks. However, it doesn't cover any employee who's already left, and I think there are at least 3 or 4 employees who have left. They will not get anything out of this. That was something that the committee demanded.
Brian, not to interrupt, but on
Sure.
on that point, the MOA says as of the date of the MOA.
Right.
And so like if somebody quit tomorrow, they would get retroactive pay.
It would be as of the date that it gets approved by the mayor and council and ratified by the union.
Yeah, that's what I want to clarify.
Yes. Number 3 is just a wording change, the local number designation change, so the contract is gonna have to change with that. It's gonna go from 164 to 1158. Holidays, we're gonna permit the employees to select their birthday holiday on any day they want, whereas in the past it had to be their actual birthday. So, I mean, if they wanna get a 4-day weekend out of it or whatever, that's certainly understandable. Article 5, there was quite a bit of discussion about. We are going to permit employees to carry over 1 week maximum of vacation, but they have to use it by April 30th of the following year. And that's, normally they get carried over because of operational concerns. At the end of the year, we don't have enough people in to let everybody take the vacation they want. A lot of people want to take the Christmas holiday, et cetera. So, this covers that scenario. Number 6 and 7 were actually, I think that's in the personnel manual that it's permitted. And it was also the recommendation of the CFO at the time that we be allowed to do this because a lot of people want to take an hour or 2 hours to go to the doctor, and we don't want to make them take a full day off to do that. So this actually works to everybody's benefit. Sick leave, we're changing the number of days that they can accumulate to 120. Emergency closing, they want the contract to reflect what's currently in the personnel manual, which is obviously not unreasonable. You do it for other people who aren't in contracts. Emergency dispatchers, this is something I don't think we've discussed with the mayor and council before, but there's a head dispatcher who actually does all of the scheduling. A lot of it is done on that person's own time. From the chief of police, it is a lot of work, and it saves the police department a lot of work by that person doing the scheduling. So our recommendation is to give that person an extra $1 per hour, and that person will be selected by the chief of police, and the chief can change the person at will. So that, again, it's not a lot of money. You're talking about, $40 or $50 a week. Number 11, we've talked about this. The mayor and council actually approved the regular, I'll call them the regular employees. The hourly and part-time employees were the only ones that we hadn't discussed with the mayor and council. And for those, it's from the people earning less than $14.28 per hour, which there are 2, will get a 40-cent per hour increase in every year of the contract. One of those people, who is pretty substantially underpaid, is going to get an extra $1 per hour retroactive to 2014 for 1 year only, and then 40 cents per hour for the 2 years after that. Everybody above $14.28 per hour is going to get a 30-cent per hour increase in each year of the 3 years. The salary increases altogether come to probably close to 3%, 3.5% when you factor everything in. And there were some people who were making some fairly substandard wages. So this brings the people on the lower end of the scale up higher. We weighted everything to the people who were making the least, and then the people at the top are getting 2%. So that's why it come up a little over 2% overall.
We're talking about 7 people, right?
It's not a lot of money, Mayor. Well, actually, no, it's more than that, I think, with the part-time, because it's all the dispatchers.
Right.
So I'm not sure, I never got an exact number of how many dispatchers. I think there are 8 or 9 maybe. Is that right, Carol?
I don't remember the number.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of a floating number.
Yeah, I mean, it's whoever they select, whatever number of people they need. But it's not, you're right, Mayor, it's not a lot of people. And in fact, going over the 2% on the full-time employees only amounted to about $2,000 over the life of the contract. So it was a minimal amount that we're talking about.
I think too, I hear it from people in the borough that we have an attitude that people feel that they're way underpaid, which is why we're losing some employees. They feel like that we're not up to the standards of what the Morris County or adjacent municipalities are paying their employees. Now, I don't know if that reflects on us and how we've dealt things or how things have been run in the past. I know that, but I'm not, now that we're in contract negotiations, we are limited by the state also now, correct?
Yes, and that's why the committee felt that, weighting it more heavily towards the lower paid employees was the way to go. Some of the people at the upper end of the scale, they're not living in luxury palaces, but, it is a living wage, at least, over $50,000. But, some of these people are making, $14 an hour. You can make that at Burger King.
Exactly.
So.
15 in New York now for McDonald's.
I'm sorry?
New York just passed the $15.
$15, yes, yeah, it would actually be more than that.
Yeah, that's
Taxes are a
massive.
little worse over there, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies, I think Walmart is at $10 an hour now, across the country, so.
And we went through these numbers, Brian, and they're all accurate.
Yes. So if this is acceptable, I will prepare a resolution for you to have at the next meeting to adopt it, to approve it, and then it will have to be ratified by the union, but I don't see that as.
I understand how personal days will work in hour increments, but How does sick leave work in hour increments?
If you have a doctor's appointment, you can take off 2 hours instead of taking a whole day off.
But that's
That's the
personal.
one I have questions
No, no,
about,
it's
and I
simple.
know that answer.
Sick leave, you go to the doctor.
Okay.
Sick leave is absolutely permissible to go to the doctor's appointment, or for treatment, or whatever it might be, sure.
I think we have to touch upon the last item.
The last sentence.
Second page.
Oh, okay, yeah. The last item is obviously something that I spoke about with the mayor and council at your last meeting. I think that's gonna be, you know, directed by what happens. I understand that Karen is, you know, has to take a test, and that within the next several months, she has to pass that. So either she's gonna be in one position or the other, and I think you have to await a determination of what position she's gonna be in as to.
I think that leads to a question that we had, right, Cliff, with regard to, we're gonna have an acting CFO and an acting borough clerk. Are those positions, they're not covered by the union then, are they? Being that,
No, they're not, and we had that discussion with
Right.
the union, because both the CFO position and the clerk position are confidential employees,
Right.
which would not be in the union. So, again,
So
Karen
I know-
would be out of the union if in fact she becomes the clerk.
no, acting clerk, she is the acting clerk.
Well, actually, they're considering her, and I think we're considering her to be the deputy clerk still. She is in an acting capacity as the clerk, but her real title is deputy clerk. So that's why she's still in the union. Again, as I expressed
That's
the
how her
last time.
salary is paid on, is on a deputy borough clerk, not on an acting.
I understand that, but I'm trying to get to the bottom of what, if we create the position of acting clerk,
She will be out of the union.
right, and the same thing, we've decided recently, as opposed to hiring a CFO, we're gonna have our former treasurer become our acting, we're gonna create the position of acting CFO and have her mentored.
Well, not former treasurer, she's still gonna be serving the capacity as treasurer.
She's gonna perform the function, but she's gonna be, I think she's gonna be our acting CFO.
But she's gonna be treasurer, she's not gonna be former treasurer. I still need a treasurer in the borough to sign,
Okay,
You know.
all right, she's gonna perform, but, I mean, I'm not gonna get the two salaries. So I think what I'm getting at is, I think Jennifer Stillman, and I'm not sure with Karen.
Is she someone who's in the union?
Well, right now, she's listed in the
Okay.
union because she was the treasurer and she was
Right.
the assistant to the, but now she's our acting CFO.
I think you would have the same situation here. If somebody becomes the CFO, that's automatically a confidential position, which means that they can't be in the union.
Right, so her being the acting CFO, she has all the responsibilities and confidentiality of the CFO, so that would take her out of the union. And I'm saying that Karen's in the same position.
I agree. But again, it's going to abide by what happens within the next couple of months, so, you know, I'm not opposed to doing it, leaving it this way
Okay.
until we see.
Well, the
what
acting
happens.
CFO is gonna be a couple years, probably.
Okay.
So, I don't know.
I think if you create that position and you name her as the acting CFO, then you know, I would tell the union that, you know, we believe that by operation of law, she has to come out of the union as a
Right.
confidential employee.
Okay.
And then you can negotiate directly with her, you wouldn't have to negotiate through the union.
Would it
That's
be-
really the only difference.
Would
Yes.
it make sense to wait to see where Karen ends up before we do anything with Jen? Because then, if
Well,
we're
they're
gonna
not
make.
tied together.
They're not, but what do we have to do to make it union versus non-union? Is it like a big deal, or can
No,
we just
I
make a
think
phone call and say?
Yeah, I think the union would have to agree. In fact, the union did agree with regard to Karen at the
Okay.
meeting.
That she's out of the union.
That if she becomes the clerk, she's
Oh,
out
she
of the
becomes
union.
the clerk,
Yeah.
not acting clerk, because she's not, because the deputy, I
Right,
guess,
right.
to me, that's splitting hairs, but you, professional guy.
Yeah, you know, the way the lawyers
you
get.
lawyers.
Is there anything here that prevents us from going to final next week?
No.
Or is it
No, I'll
separated?
prepare a resolution and send it to you. No, there's nothing at all.
The time frame for acting versus deputy is 2 years regardless of the position?
For
Meaning-
the statutory,
CFO versus clerk?
I believe there's a 2-year,
I think CFO's 3 years, I was
Window.
told.
okay, it
But-
might be. There's
but I'd have
a
to look into it.
statutory window of opportunity that you can be acting before you have to pass all the tests. So I'm not sure what, I think for clerk it's 2 years, for CFO, if maybe
Might be.
3.
Yeah, I'm checking
Clerk is
CFO
three.
right now.
Clerk is 3, okay.
My recollection is CFO is 2, it
Oh,
can be
maybe I got it
extended,
backwards.
it can be extended, you can be extended for another year or something like that.
Okay, so it's
And
3.
if there's a problem, you can, I mean, in other municipalities, I've called down to local government services and gotten an exemption from
Okay.
that, because there was nobody to fill the
We've got a few
position.
months until the
Okay.
So-
Union's excited about finally,
I think so, it's hard to tell. I think they're more just glad it's over with.
okay.
I think they were, I mean, everybody was smiling that it was,
Yeah.
that it was done.
All right.
And I think they were treated fairly, I think they understand it. I mean, I think the mayor and council, went as far as you could go.
We didn't really battle them a whole lot.
No,
at
I don't
any
think so.
point, you know?
Another question.
Sure.
If Jen is made acting,
Which we've decided that's, yeah.
she would be out of the union like right now. I mean,
Right.
So what we would have to do is create that position, and Mark will tell us what we have to do that if we choose to do it, and then we'd have to amend our salary ordinance to put the salary, so she can be paid as acting CFO, because we don't have that title on our salary ordinance.
So you have to amend the salary ordinance first before we can move forward with.
Should we do that?
Can we
now?
just leave her as CFO? I mean, the acting is,
She hasn't passed the test.
right, no, I mean, it's obvious that she's only acting because she doesn't have qualifications
Right.
to be full.
Okay.
But
Well, maybe I'm getting too literal then by saying you gotta create
I
a
don't know if we,
position.
yeah, I don't know if
You guys.
it contemplates that we have to create that position. I mean, she's in the CFO's position.
She is.
We're not creating a new position, Brian, are we creating a new position as acting CFO, or is she in fact in the CFO's position, but by statute, she's deemed to be acting because she's not yet passed the test?
I would probably call down to local government services and see if they think you need to create it. I'm more concerned about, again, these are people, both the clerk and the CFO are intimately connected with negotiations. The CFO with the financial aspect, and the clerk, being in all of the meetings.
Why can't we
Yeah.
sign the confidentiality piece of paper? Because, I mean, I've been doing this for 19 years.
Because PERC says that you're a confidential employee and you should be out of the union. You shouldn't have split loyalties. It shouldn't be, you're not being loyal to the union because you're not telling them information that you have. It's not fair to put you in that position, frankly.
And we're not saying we think you're
Oh,
giving
no.
away
No,
confidential
no,
information.
right.
It's a
Obviously, no.
technicality.
I understand that. I
Right.
was just thinking of a way around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else for Brian?
I have a grievance, but I can discuss it with you later.
Sure.
the first sentence there, presently under discussion, the borough's council regarding a salary ordinance, we're not considering that anymore, are we? Or is that
What are we looking at?
that's the first sentence in brackets after Karen's name. Are we talking about the salary ranges, or?
No, I'm gonna change that. I mean, that's
Okay.
just for the memorandum of agreement. I'm just gonna put in there that her salary would be open to, they could reopen a contract based upon, what might take place.
What happens if,
Yeah.
okay.
Based on our interview this morning, I think we have to look at the salary ordinance for the second seat in there for full-time. It may have to be expanded a little bit to get somebody in there that's gonna,
I think she's asking for the top end or above the top end.
yeah, a little bit above
Yeah,
the
if
top
it's
end.
somebody in the union. you
No, no,
can't-
okay.
You can't negotiate directly with the person, you have to negotiate through the union. If it's somebody that's in the bargaining unit.
Even a starting salary person, you're not
Yes.
an employee.
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay, so
We
before we
interviewed
make this
today.
person an offer, before we make her an offer, we have to tell the
I would
union we
negotiate the
intend.
starting salary with the union, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You want,
I'll contact them.
you know them so well
I'll
now.
contact them. You want to contact her, because we'll have to tell her, assuming we
Well, we have
agree
to
move
decide on a
it.
number.
You have to get the union to agree to a salary before you do an
Well, no, we
average.
have to decide whether we're willing to pay
The
what
number
she's
she's asking. Okay.
Right.
And if we
hire
do,
her.
then we'll go to the union and say,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, and if she's gonna be happy with it, I'm sure the union's gonna be happy with it, but that's
Okay.
the legally correct
I
way
got
to
you.
do it.
Okay.
So, but what's the first step? We have to, are we gonna
I
decide that
want,
now?
to talk about the
Yeah.
number now, because I didn't
Yeah.
want to talk about it in public. I mean, it'll be public knowledge one, but it's
Eventually.
negotiations right now with the person in effect. She said she'd like to be not less than 45. She was making more than that, but she knows she's gonna be learning and she's not familiar with everything.
She said she was making what, 52?
Well, she said when she worked for a public accounting firm, she was making $52,000 a year.
And now she's part-time.
Now she's part-time in West Milford, but she'd like a full-time salary of not less than 45. And if we're gonna go 45, and this is just my feeling to throw into the 2 cents, is you give somebody a little bit more than their bottom baseline, asking so they come in happy and appreciating it, and even if it's $1,000. It's just psychologically, 'cause we hire accountants all the time, and, you know,
Do we remember what
I'd rather
Linda was
1,000
making?
over than under, just
Do you remember
attitude
what
wise.
Linda was making by any chance?
Okay.
Linda was making, I think, 30,
Linda?
Oh, 40.
Linda was making 30
I- I-
something, 36, 30 something like that she was making. No, see, Linda was being paid extra money because she opted out of the health insurance, so it gave her another $5,000.
Well, this
She was
person would
making
too.
39,401.
Linda.
with the opt-out, or?
Linda Doig?
Yeah,
Yeah, 39,401.
with the opt-out, though. That wasn't her base
That's
salary.
with the opt-out. That's with the
Oh, okay.
$4,000 or $5,000 she was being paid
Oh, a
because her
stipend in
husband,
addition to that or something?
her
that's for
husband
the
had health
insurance.
insurance,
Oh,
so she
okay.
opted out of it, so we pay her for the health insurance.
That's what her salary is listed as, that's
So
all I
there's,
have.
no, there's, that, it's $4,000 or $5,000 cheaper.
Okay.
So we'd be looking at almost 10 grand more.
The person have any payroll experience, or is that?
Yes, it does payroll for West Milford, 300 employees, no, 3 times us, about 180 employees.
And she
And Jennifer
worked
says
for-
that she's used ADP and it's more ours is easier.
And,
She should be able
You
to.
said you spoke to her prior
I
employer.
spoke to her prior employer, the CPA, who I happen to know, and he said, if she's looking, I'd like to get her back. Huh?
Is somebody from town?
Yeah,
Cool.
Rich people.
You know. Okay, well, just be
And
honest,
he
you know,
said,
be open
no,
with just,
oh, you asked
you
me, I
know.
told you.
Well, just, well, you say the former, you say it's
Former employee.
Beaverman. Beaverman was formerly on the Board of Ed. I mean, we know who he
That's
is.
not how I say.
You don't,
Anyway, he
What do you
said
say?
he'd hire her.
Beaverman, he's a former member of the board of Ed.
It's a good accountant, though.
What did you say? You mumbled that last part, what was that?
He's a complainer.
Well, just professionally though, he's one of the better forensic accountants out there,
He's
so,
still a complainer.
which means he's a detail guy, he works for these guys, come on, he's a
You
forensic
know
guy.
that.
Yeah, he is.
But, he said he'd hire her back in a heartbeat.
Yeah, goats in his backyard.
He said,
so you're
She
gonna
was a
talk to,
great,
you're gonna
great
talk to the
employee.
union
That
about,
was what I meant, right?
$45,000?
Are we agreed on the 45
Steve,
What,
I know you're
or 46?
45,000, is that the number we're talking about?
46?
I threw out there, I'd like to give her $1,000 more, just because she comes in with a very positive attitude. She said not less than
Sign of good
45.
faith.
does that
Sign of good
include
faith, that's
insurance
all.
and everything else?
Well, she's entitled to insurance as a full-time employee. If she in fact doesn't take the insurance because her husband happens to be a retired police officer, yes, she'll get $4,000 or $5,000 or so more, but we also will probably save $20,000 premium. So,
Okay,
what
are
would
we
you
in
rather do?
agreement at 46, 45, where are we?
All right,
Right now, 40,
It's gonna be 49 actually.
she's going to be the administrative assistant / finance.
Nice.
yes.
Slash tax. Slash
No,
rec.
she's gonna be taxed.
And
We're down to like 2
salary
employees up here, we need to
range.
hire more than one a
Well,
month.
that's what we're talking about now.
I have to change the
We
salary
have to change
range.
salary ordinance. That's why I brought, what's the other reason I brought it up?
Let me just throw something out there on, while we're having those discussions. Okay, when a vacancy occurs in the office of a CFO, following the
Wait,
appointment
Mark,
of.
Mark, before you get
Oh,
on
I'm sorry,
that, I want to resolve this.
I
This-
apologize.
This position, let's get this set, okay? Because 45 was going once, then now you're,
Well, I originally-
you're saying 46, but she was asking for 45?
She said not less than 45 was her words. So, she'd like not less than 45.
I think 46. Jim says 40.
47.
48, how does she look? No.
Dan,
I'm just saying, we're close, that's recorded. That was a joke.
okay, Cliff is going to reach out to union to determine if 46 is something that
Right.
meets their, and then we can make the offer if
Okay.
they come back and agree to it, okay?
Should you talk to her and say, look, we gotta go through
Let's
the-
get the union on board
First?
first before we
Okay.
talk back to her, okay?
Okay.
And then hopefully, but let's get the union to expedite this because that position,
Well,
we
if I-
need support.
if you don't get to the union, and I doubt you will by tomorrow, and I'm away, I guess either you or Karen, or you or Jennifer can talk to her next
Okay.
week, okay?
Okay.
Because I'll be gone.
Okay, not a problem.
Should we like, Curtis
conference
is
call?
very
Yeah.
responsive, yeah. but
Yeah.
by
We have to
email or-
determine whether
so if
she's
you wanna-
gonna
want me to help
fall
with
into the
They'll reach out to you
CFO
tomorrow.
salary
Okay.
range, and
Okay.
then we don't have to change it, right?
That's 90 to 116,
Well, then we have to drop it.
okay.
But if Mark, which I think he's pregnant with anticipation on telling us what he found.
Well,
Pregnant.
just, if we,
Pregnant.
if I can,
Pregnant,
Go
that
ahead,
means
Trump.
all right, because we keep using the wrong phrase and it becomes an issue at some point. When a vacancy occurs in the office of CFO, following the appointment of a CFO to that office, the governing body or chief executive officer, as appropriate, may appoint for a period not to exceed 1 year, commencing on the date of the vacancy, a person who does not hold a municipal finance officer certificate to serve as a temporary CFO. It's not interim, it's not acting,
It's temporary.
temporary.
it's specifically statutorily
Okay.
called temporary. And it is for 1 and 1, a total of 2, okay? And the second one is with the approval of the director. Then the statute goes on to say, no local unit shall have a temporary CFO for more than 2 consecutive years.
Okay.
So let me ask a question. If we hire a full-time CFO upon appointment of the temporary position, it's a 2-year appointment, what happens? Then you have a temporary and a,
Well, that I think is, we want to think about this a little bit. We're not hiring this mentor.
no, but I'm saying hypothetically, if we identified, a CFO walked in here tomorrow and was something that we were really
We'd have 2
interested in.
CFOs.
Okay,
We
that's
would-
what I want to clarify.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me, we'd have our temporary CFO, who is acting for a certain term.
Right.
And we would have now a new CFO. What would become of the temporary at that point? And
So we,
I don't know that I have a quick answer to that.
we're over a year already, right?
No,
When did, I'm frightened,
January she left.
January
This
15th.
year.
January 15th she left, so in February
Okay.
you did
We have-
her a temporary.
So by next February, we have to apply to the director for a
For
second
a
year.
second
If our
year,
plan.
which I assume is granted fairly liberally, but the statute then becomes very clear, no more than 2. But that's an interesting question, Brian. What do we do if we have 2 CFOs? I mean,
You
we have,
can't.
obviously,
You have
right?
2 CFOs, yeah. Yeah,
So-
I don't know if, what I would recommend is that you put something in the agreement that you have when you hire the temporary CFO, that their term of office or their employment, is it somebody who's here now? or-
Yeah, they're doing the
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, that they would go back to whatever their former position was upon hiring a permanent CFO. Because you can't have, it's like a
Yeah,
police
you
chief.
yeah, you can't have
Because-
it. It's like a
Because
clerk.
if
It's
she,
like a clerk.
because
You can't-
I'm sure she'll get it, but Jennifer then has a year from February, she's got till February 17th to get her license. Because we can't have it more than 2 years in a row, according
Right.
to what you just said.
And what's her timeline? It was about 2 years.
She's close. She's got two courses she has to take, and she's signed up for all.
And that may be an important part of getting these extensions, is that she's
Right.
close, she
Yes.
really just needs one more course, et cetera.
Okay.
But I don't want later for somebody to not have gotten that. It's 2 one-year terms, okay?
Okay, what else do we need
So I
from,
don't want to take the treasurers off of here. I want to keep it safe, because we do need a treasurer, but she's not going to get paid for the treasurer.
Right, you're not gonna give her 2 complete salaries.
I'm just checking, make sure I know what
I'm
doing.
agreeing with it,
I just want to make sure I know
Okay.
what I'm doing for
But I
Thursday.
think on the CFO, if it's from 90, she's not gonna be, she's
That's
gonna
what
be
I need
below
to
the
know
range,
that
we gotta
too.
drop
Sorry,
that.
Jack, we're in
you know?
closed
You have to
session.
tell me.
Thank you.
So we need a number.
I need how much you're going to pay her and what the range is going to be.
Yeah, she was asking for,
Sorry,
um,
who are we talking about?
can we talk about a salary? For
Oh,
for our temporary CFO?
Please,
Without
phrase
our-
it, says it in office?
Go ahead. You're not gonna-
Yeah, the office of whatever.
I mean, we really can't discuss the terms and conditions, but, okay, we're discussing,
What's she looking for? She's at 50 something now?
listen,
She's at
Mark,
59.
Mark, this is getting into there, we're talking
Yeah,
about
we're
a
starting to
specific,
discuss
we're talking about what
specific-
she's requesting, and this is,
What-
so,
Well, Brian just said we can talk about the salary of the position.
you just said, she's asked for, you just started the conversation saying, she's asked
For the
for.
position, we're called she.
Listen, I'm not comfortable with this. If you want to go into closed session next week with Ricer, but, I'm not comfortable talking about somebody's salary in this format. It just,
We're crossing that line a little bit.
All right.
But let the ideas shake out for a week too, and let's see what we wind up ultimately doing with it.
Is there any problem if we just drop the bottom end of the CFO salary to
Drop
say
this
70?
so that this can be introduced.
Make the bottom end 70,
that's fine.
and we'll be within then,
Okay.
in all likelihood.
So we can at least introduce this
Yes.
and get this going.
And I think, Cliff, you need to walk the halls in Borough Hall and talk to the employees about salaries and
Okay.
stuff, the ones that are not in the union, and find out their feelings and
Who's,
thoughts.
who's not in the union?
Melanie,
Karen?
I'm in the union.
Oh, yeah, you still are.
who's not in the
Uh,
union?
And
Are you-
Jennifer won't be, yeah.
Jen won't be, and that's
I
it.
don't know if anybody is.
That's it.
And everybody else is.
So
The
it's under
replacement
contract. That's
for-
what I'm saying, Jimmy, just,
Our tax collector's not in the union, right?
What about Melanie's
Is that-
raises?
No, I
don't believe so.
Right, so
This
when
will
we
be
go
a
to
year
hire it
from
out, we
now.
don't have to talk to the union.
Oh, yeah.
We've advertised, right? So she's
Got two
director.
resumes with licenses, and they're looking, so we'll talk.
That's
to
right,
them.
because what's her name, the health went union because it's Peter, I mean, not Peter, Tim. No, Melanie, and, that's it.
You only have to
And
walk,
you
you only
just
have to walk
gave-
one hall.
That's a half a
Not,
wall.
not,
Well, I mean, Adam wrote me a note and said that, that's why.
We just gave Heather,
It's a short.
so it's Melanie.
But I mean, what are we doing with Melanie? I mean, I know we can't,
well, if she hasn't been here a year, right?
she's been here,
She's been here a year.
Melanie? Yeah.
Okay, so I think you
started
can,
soccer season,
you
that's all I
can,
know.
you can make a recommendation, and then we can, talk about her, after we rice her, and lay down,
And
okay?
I'm racing Jen.
And you're ricing Jen.
So you can write her as well. That would be for the next month.
And
Or
they
or we
need-
can do this if you, I don't know what your timeline is, we could do this next week, I know you're not gonna be here.
Can
Or
do
you
it
wanna
next
wait-
week. Cliff
or
sat with
wait till-
Jennifer
or wait
this
till
morning.
next
and
month.
she-
It's up to you if you want to be there or not.
I'll throw you up to the council. Okay, one member doesn't make or break.
Well, no, it's up to me whether I want to be there, and then I would express that feeling to the
That
council,
you could
and
do
then they
that.
would
Or
decide.
you can cancel your vacation and come. How's that? I'll even lay that out as an option,
all
so.
those cutthroat trout in
I
Wyoming
think
would be
it's a-
so disappointed if I wasn't there to catch
Water
them
levels
next
are
week.
low out there, what are you talking
That's
about?
right, when I get in, it goes up a little bit.
I mean, it's retroactive, correct? And so if we skip her this next week and it goes a month.
No.
Not necessarily, no.
Well, then I say then we have to do it Thursday, my
Okay, well
recommendation.
then we'll race both Jen and,
Okay,
Okay.
and I'll talk to Cliff.
Melanie
give
doesn't
my
have to be
feeling.
this
Okay.
Thursday, I mean, you can do her next month.
you had
You're
some,
a litigator,
well,
you
anything
do
else
much
for-
better than I do.
anything else for Brian?
Just
I usually yell at
quickly,
people.
I didn't know if Brian and Cliff wanted to mention anything about what the union lawyer said to us about our pay scale, et cetera, regarding the employees and
Yeah, I
comparing
think
it.
we've touched on that a couple of times tonight,
Yeah,
just in
okay.
general, that.
That's good?
Basically what Dan said, no,
Yeah.
that it's low.
That it's
You're
low
losing
and that-
people because of that.
And we're
Yeah.
gonna start new negotiations, next year.
Next year, shortly, yeah,
6 months
within
from
the next
now.
several
Yeah.
months, yeah, so.
You start all over.
You'll have an opportunity, and you
Okay.
can't make it up all at once, and you did,
Yeah.
I think you made some pretty good strides, making some,
We
you
did.
really do.
They agreed to what we offered.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else for Brian this evening? And Brian, thank you for
I
waiting.
don't know,
Appreciate
I
it.
think grievance.
You can
Oh, you wanna talk to me now, or you wanna
Is
talk
that
to me?
settled?
talk to him more about that.
I'll give you
Here?
I want to talk about the contract with garbage. You got
Yeah,
that?
well, I do
Good night,
think,
everybody.
Good night, Brian. Safe
Thanks
trip.
again.
I do think we need
Finally
to
on the 50 for Karen.
briefly talk about the garbage bids. I mean, obviously, it's a troubling number.
That's right.
About that.
We don't have the ability to exercise any option here or anything else. We've gone out for bids. You could reject all bids for being over the anticipated price, but I don't know that this is that much truly over the anticipated price.
I don't know. I mean, it's 96,000 in the in the refuse collection, and it's 69,000. And so we're gonna be paying about 160,000
number.
more. It's a big number.
You can reject the bids if
What was the overall contract last year?
The overall contract, last year, 2015, was 120,000, and it went to 196.
So,
I don't think you
This
can
year.
reject this, but I think you can maybe move forward on maybe a one-year consideration.
I think we're gonna have to move forward
What I
with
know,
1 year.
what I noticed too is your, in this one, the per year is the same as the 1 year. In this one, in fact, the per year is $10,000 higher than the 1 year.
Right.
So there's really no incentive to do it on a longer term basis.
No, you know,
I think you do the 1 year, obviously, we're gonna bid garbage again soon anyway, but at least you may have the ability to look around a little bit or get more
in
bidders.
3 years, it's a $500,000 difference. We
It's
don't wanna
huge.
do the 3 years. If you look at
It
this.
goes up more every year?
Oh, yeah,
Right.
every year, you see?
Plus,
It
if
goes
it's a,
from 101 to 288,
if it's a market
in
that's
the
in
third year,
transition
right?
for whatever
the
reason,
third year of the contract.
I don't know that you wanna lock into these kind of numbers for 3
You know, it goes from
years.
387 to $1,001,000,
And of course, you're
which
taking a
is a
little bit of a gamble.
$288,000
Has
difference.
everybody
That's huge.
seen this spreadsheet?
No, they did not. I only gave it to you and I gave it to,
Can I just borrow it? I wrote mine, and just
Sure.
have, if you make copies, Carol. I think we're talking about really going with just a 1 year.
1 year, I think that's what we have to do.
Right. And you, I mean, effectively, you'll have to start.
You know, we had talked in committee about doing 3 years, but we didn't have the numbers in front of us.
Right, now they have those numbers, why would you lock into that?
Right, exactly.
Although it's trouble, and again,
The only downside is it comes in higher when you.
And that's always
That's
possible.
always possible.
we had an option year in New Milford last night, yesterday, we opened the bids, and we got one bidder, odd how that happens, and the same bidder actually bid $59,000 more for the year than our option price. So we actually looked, council looks a little stupid having not accepted the option price and instead chosen to bid, thinking a competitive market would help. You could be in that same situation, but I don't think you can,
These
I don't think
numbers-
at these numbers you can take a 2 or 3
Right.
year. You've gotta take the
But
one.
I think we dodged a bullet here. I mean, the contract that we're currently in was priced exactly the same as the prior year contract. So
That was it.
we basically, we had a 6-year run with
Absorb
the.
all
Absolutely.
of it.
Them.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's the same
It
part.
actually went down a little bit 1 year.
So we've been very fortunate, and the guy probably looks around now and says, hey, wait a minute, it's time for me
I
to
guess-
get some kind of.
I just don't know how it goes, a single pickup versus a double pickup at the same price. That just,
That doesn't
that
make
just
sense,
is-
right?
No, that doesn't make any.
Twice as much fuel, twice as many employee hours, and you do it for the same price.
Is it warm? Yes, it is.
All right?
okay, so the
So I think
recommendation here is to do
that's
with
relatively.
a 1 year.
So that, we can do that, I mean, we didn't bid for a 3-year contract.
No, we have options, we can do one, we
There's
can do
some
two.
houses. Thanks.
And you may wanna let the guy know, look, and it seems like John Whitehead had a very nice, a good relationship with him, I mean, obviously they worked together for 6 years.
Right.
And so Dan, you have a good
Yeah,
relationship with
very
him.
good relationship. The driver's very good, you know.
You gotta let the guy
The
know.
one driver left, but the son took over. The father lived in Florida, and the son took over.
I think we have to let him know, we would have loved to have locked in with